Hello, good evening, and good day, everyone, and welcome back to the Ask Abhijit show. I hope you're all doing great. Uh, Today, we will discuss whatever you want to discuss. We could focus on what's happening in Iran. I mean, what was happening in Iran right now seems like things are peaceful, but you never know, so we can discuss that. But before we do any of that, let us see who all is there on the live stream. And then we shall proceed with an update of what's happened in the past few days. So let's see who all is there on the live stream. I can see Ranu Nahapana, Hail Shiva. Indeed, Hail Shiva. Rahul Dunake, good to see you, sir. Rahul. Ashwini Sharma, Shubh Sandhya ji. Geopolitical Dubey from Indore, good evening to you, sir. Geopolitical Dubey. Dev Joshi, good evening. Abhyuday Singh from Uttarakhand, good to see you. The Eternal Witness, good to have you too. Excited for the session. Rohan Bidi, Har Har Mahadev. Ayush Bodale, good evening. Ishita Bharadwaj, Jai Shri Ram ji. Ayush Singh, Pranam Sarji. Karan Kumar from Saket, New Delhi. I'm artistic. Good to see you. I'm artistic. Sayantan Banerjee, Guten Tag once again to you as well. Anup, 030390. Coco Tyrion from the UK. Hello. Sumit, good evening. GK, namaste. Karan Kumar. Sri Hari Arjun, namaste from Mumbai. Well, good to have you. Shishir Upadhyaya, good evening. Priyanshu Poli, Manipur situation. Ombe Kerikar, hello. I hope you're doing good. Good to see you again. Om Naik is here from Sambalpur. Namaskar. Shreyas Mitra is here from Moscow. Well, privyet. Animals for Love, good to see you from Mumbai. Raghuvir Solanki, Vishwa student. Sergeant Skyland, hello. Good to see you as well. Omkar Kumbhar says Nicobar pe bhi charcha honi chahiye. Well, ask me questions, I'll take it up here. Random Skull, hello, good to have you. Random Skull. Priyam Tripathi, namaskar. Shri Hari Arjun, Nutan Roshan, O Arya, namaskaram. Karan Kumar, who else do we have? McLevin69, good to have you. Somi here from Jaipur. Aman Tiwari, Tanmay Deshpande, Vinay Bharadwaj. Saurabh is here from Canada. Good morning. Priyanshu says Manipur situation worsened. Well, nobody is looking at Manipur. Manipur has been, in a terrible situation for a long time, since 2023. Nirvana Shanks, good evening. Good evening. Good to have you. Good to have you. Led Zeppelin, right. Tanmay Deshpande, Hacking Monks. Who else do we have? Priya Kumar, good evening. Good evening. Who else? Extremist, namaskaram. Imperial Bharat, Jai Shri Ram sir. Chetan Aradhya, hello, good to see you. Pratardana, namaste ji, namaste. Dheeraj Kamath, good morning. Avinav Banerjee from Shillong, good evening. Anabil Sarkar, Jai Guman, SH8 Veer, Chetan Aradhya. Ranveer Rathore from Ranchi, good evening to you, sir. Jai Guman. Egan Targaryen, hello. Prime 17007, hello. Dheeraj Kamath, good morning, good evening. Blind Torpedo. Blind Torpedo. I'm Matastic, hello. Good to see you, I'm Matastic. Jayant is here. Humanity survives. It does, yes, indeed. Good evening. Abhinav Kapil from Himachal, and so many other people. Okay, so I won't be able to greet you all individually, but good to have you. So before we get going with the questions that I'm sure you will have lots of, let us see what has happened in the past few days. Okay. Madhavi, hello. Crypto Man, Vande Matram from Oman. Okay. Seneca, hello there. Okay, so what's happened in the past few days since we last did a live stream? And I'm talking about the situation in West Asia, Iran. There's been a war, right? The Israeli-American war against Iran. So let's take a look at what's happened. As usual, I'm going to show it from Twitter, from X. But here's something that's very recent. This is from today. Okay? This is from today. And this is the president of the US, Mr. Donald Trump, who is talking about seizing ships. The US Navy has been blockading the Strait of Hormuz, right? And it's been apparently seizing ships in the region. And Mr. Trump says, I'm not going to play out the actual video, but Mr. Trump says that it's a very profitable business, seizing ships. It's a profitable business, very profitable. We're like pirates. Yeah, that's what Trump says. We're like pirates. Yeah, this is piracy. I mean, if you seize someone's ships that don't legally belong to you, it may be profitable, but you're pirates, you're thieves, aren't you? And this seems to there's a historical precedent for this. Okay, in the 1500s, the Spanish were at the forefront of plundering the Americas. See, 1492, Christopher Columbus discovers the Americas. He imagines that he has reached India, but it was the Americas, the Bahamas. Then the Spanish start, taking over large parts of the region and plundering them and enslaving and genociding people there. And the English are left far behind. So what do the English do? At that time, you have in the 1500s, you have Elizabeth who's ruling England. So what does she do? She finances pirates. They were called privateers. So she finances pirates who then go and do piracy on the Spanish ships. And that's how the English survive until they start, uh, cracking the code and starting these joint stock companies. A certain joint stock company was founded in 1600 that went eastwards. It was called the East India Company. There were other joint stock companies, the Virginia Company, etc., that went westwards. And that's how the United States eventually was created later on. So piracy is in the blood of the Anglos. It's not something new to them. Piracy and thievery. All the great explorers, English explorers like Captain James Cook and whoever else that you may have heard of, they served at certain points in their lives as pirates, as privateers. I believe the Anglos seem to imagine that this is an honorable profession, piracy. So typically, you don't say such things out loud. But Mr. Trump, as we know, he is unique. So he is saying the quiet part out loud. It's a very profitable business. We're like pirates. You're not like pirates, you are pirates. Thieves. So this is from today. What else has happened in the past week or so? Let's see. A very interesting development. This is from what? April 28th. Today is May the 2nd of May. So this is from Tuesday. Today is Saturday. This is from this week's Tuesday. A very interesting development. Iran has just authorized a Japanese super tanker carrying 2 million barrels of oil to transit the Strait of Hormuz. The ship is following the new shipping lanes designated by Iran. Japan is a key ally. It's not an ally, it's a vassal. Japan is a vassal of the US, which makes this development noteworthy. Tokyo is certainly paying a transit fee for this ship. So Iran is allowing vessels, even American, vessels belonging to American vassals, to transit the Strait of Hormuz. But the Americans are doing piracy in the region. Okay. Now, what else is noteworthy? We have this. This is from April 29, Wednesday. Today is Friday. Today is Saturday. So it's from 3-4 days ago. President Trump has rejected Iran's proposal to open the Strait of Hormuz, and the US has prepared for a short and powerful wave of strikes on Iran as per Axios. Details include Trump says he will keep Iran under a naval blockade until they agree to a nuclear deal. After the strikes, which would likely include infrastructure targets, the US would press Iran to negotiate again. Trump sees continuing the blockade as his primary source of leverage. Trump said Iran's oil storage and pipelines are getting close to exploding because Iran can't export oil due to the blockade. US oil prices surge above $107 per barrel on the news. So Trump sees the blockade that he has imposed on the Strait of Hormuz as his primary source of leverage over Iran. And he has been pushing in a lot of arms, equipment, munitions, whatnot into the region, multiple large naval vessels, at least 2 aircraft carriers and so on. So it looks like the United States is preparing for a new resumption of hostilities, a short and powerful wave of strikes on Iran. Looks like that could be coming. We don't know when. They will do it when they feel that they are completely 100% sufficiently prepared and ready. And the objective will be to essentially, well, defeat Iran if they can do it. So yeah, that's something that happened. This report came out on Wednesday. This is more of the same. Breaking: U.S. Central Command (CENTCOM) has prepared a plan for a short and powerful wave of strikes, which would likely target Iranian infrastructure. Per Axios, President Trump believes this would break the negotiating deadlock, and U.S. gasoline futures are up another 5% amid the news. What else? There was a call between Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump on Wednesday, April 29. And Putin told Trump in that phone call that he foresees extremely harmful consequences if the US and Israel attack Iran again, calling any ground operation or invasion extremely dangerous and unacceptable, per the Russian news agency TASS. So looks like, yes, Putin, Russia, etc., are aware that the US is probably planning a new attack on Iran. Now, this is about the US Secretary of War, Mr. Pete Hegseth. This is from April 29, Wednesday. So Hegseth testified that Iran's nuclear facilities have been obliterated. And someone called Smith says, whoa, 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 whoa. We had to start this war, you just said, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you are saying it was completely obliterated. Hegseth says they had not given up their ambitions. So Smith says, so Operation Midnight Hammer accomplished nothing of substance. Hegseth said, you're missing the point. So clearly, there was no real justification for this attack that the Israelis and Americans launched on Iran. Clearly. I mean, this guy is going in circles. He claimed, and Trump claimed in 2025, that they had completely destroyed and obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. Completely. Iran's nuclear program was dead. Well, if that was the case, why did you launch a war? Because you're claiming that you launched a war because you don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. But last year, you were claiming that you have completely destroyed their facilities. So you were either lying last year or you are lying right now. But you are lying. So these lies are not being missed in the US, right? They're catching the lies. So, yeah. What else? Dr. Jaishankar, India's foreign minister, tweeted on Wednesday, received a phone call from Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi of Iran this evening. Had a detailed conversation about various aspects of the current situation. We agreed to remain in close touch. Okay. So looks like this is a routine procedural interaction between India and Iran, just to understand from each other's perspective what's going on and to keep each other appraised of whatever each other needs to know. So this was probably a routine phone call between the two foreign ministers. That's about Iran. Now we have the great Mr. Nandan Nilekani, who tweeted on Wednesday. Everything's happening on Wednesday, right? He tweeted, India does not need to lead the world. India does not need to lead the world in building the most advanced AI models. No, no, no. India must not lead the world in building the most advanced AI models, but it must lead in ensuring the benefits of AI are widely shared. The benefits of AI, where do the benefits come from? They come from the most advanced AI models. But India should not build these most advanced AI models. Let China and America build the most advanced AI models. Then they will throw some crumbs at India. And India must lead in ensuring that these crumbs are widely shared. That is the mindset of these so-called industry leaders of India, like Mr. Nandan Nilekani. Who is Mr. Nilekani? He is the co-founder of Infosys. Infosys is an Indian IT giant, isn't it? What is their business model? It is labor arbitrage, cyber coolie work. They have built nothing of any value. All they do is they leverage the cheap Indian talent to make a lot of money from the US. That's all they do. They have never produced anything of value for India. The only thing is this revenue stream that comes in, and they make some money, and the Indian IT industry continues ruling, and Indian cyber coolies, sadly, they get an income, and that's about it. They had the manpower to develop world-class products, the best products in the world, and so on. And yet, they develop nothing of any sort, of any consequence. So let's read what Mr. Nilekani has to say. This is his op-ed in I think, the Times of India, Economic Times. It says, it's Popular Mechanics 101. India's edge lies in using AI to enhance human productivity, not replace it. Enhance human productivity, not replace it. Let the Americans and Chinese do that work. We will simply be Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Satyameva Jayate and all that. The piece argues that AI is not an inevitable force shaping economic outcomes. Is he clueless, this person, Nilekani? He seems to be clueless. Anyhow, so it's not an inevitable force shaping economic outcomes. Rather, societies decide how its benefits are distributed. But if you want to distribute something, somebody has to produce it, right? And you want someone else to produce it and throw some crumbs at you. Historical lessons from the Industrial Revolution show that productivity gains do not automatically lead to shared prosperity without deliberate policy action. So one set of rules for the West and another set of rules for India. India should remain colonized nation, essentially. That's what people like Nilekani want for India. AI, according to Nilekani, is being framed as an economic inevitability. It isn't. History suggests technologies do not determine outcomes, societies do. This guy doesn't have the first clue about history. He's an historically illiterate person. So he says Industrial Revolution 1.0 drove extraordinary productivity gains in Britain, but for nearly a century, workers saw little benefit. Wages stagnated, jobs were displaced, and living conditions worsened. Yes, and the British Empire took over the world in the meanwhile. It took decades and major institutional and legislative changes for prosperity to spread. The lesson is simple: productivity gains don't automatically translate into shared prosperity. Without deliberate choices, gains are privatized while costs of transition are socialized. What word salad nonsense is this? A second lesson comes from the work of 2006 economics Nobel winner Edmund Phelps. Economists flourish when its benefits are widely diffused, when ordinary people can participate, experiment, and build. But that's fine, but why can't you produce the world's best AI models and also have ordinary people participate, experiment, build? Why not? In much of the developed world, AI is being deployed within large formal enterprises. The economic logic is clear: improve efficiency, often by reducing labor. When productivity gains come from headcount reduction, public anxiety is a rational response. India's structure is fundamentally different and potentially advantageous. For over a century, economic efficiency has come through consolidation. Firms expand when coordinating many small actors is costly. This is how Western economies evolved towards large corporations within specialized, narrowly defined roles. AI and digital networks are now reversing that logic. When coordination costs collapse, the whole software, blah, 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 blah. India's economy has this shape with millions of MSCs and hybrid livelihoods. A lot of AI slop, it looks like here. In the AI era, it may become a strength. Work in small enterprises is multitasked, adaptive, judgment-driven. Precisely the kind of work that's harder to automate and easier to augment. So on. So this makes India better positioned than many advanced economies to use AI to enhance human productivity rather than replace it. That's fine, but who owns the AI? Nandan Nilekani, who owns it? You want somebody else to own it, right? And then you will lecture India about all this nonsense. This advantage is not automatic. The real risk for India is not mass unemployment. It's missing a once-in-a-generation opportunity to raise productivity and incomes at scale. Productivity and incomes is what you're concerned about, but not AI sovereignty. At the same time, India has a distinct vulnerability. Its formal sector may be relatively small, but it anchors middle-class aspirations. For 3 decades, the pathway towards upward mobility has been clear: education in STEM, leading to jobs in IT, run by cyber coolie drivers like you, and related sectors. AI now directly targets many of these entry-level roles. Even limited disruption can have outsized consequences. In a country with millions of young people struggling to find meaningful work, a weakening mobility ladder isn't just an economic issue, but a socio-political one. India's AI trajectory will be shaped by 2 choices: how widely the technology is diffused and whether it expands or constrains economic mobility. If AI remains... so he's focusing about the downstream effects of AI but he doesn't want India to be a leader in AI. Long lecture about God knows what. We know what, we can read it here. India's large employers, they are dying out, by the way. AI is going to kill Infosys and everybody else. Yeah. India's large employers like IT services, financial services, manufacturing are at the AI disruption front lines. If AI is deployed primarily as a cost cutting tool, entry level opportunities will shrink. This is what these people imagine is thought leadership. People like Nilekhani, they imagine this sort of drivel is thought leadership. Yeah. Build AI as public infra and so on, enable mass. So he is giving some long gyan about what India should do, but he is saying that India doesn't need to lead the world in building. Essentially, he's recommending don't worry about leading the world in building most advanced AI models. We must take the models other build and make sure that they are distributed well. But you get what others voluntarily give you, right? And you have to pay for that. Ridiculous. So this is the kind of thought leadership we have in India. Nandan Nilekhani, right? Sad to see this sort of drivel being pushed upon India. What else do we have? Okay, this is his article. Look at this. And in the meanwhile, you have the world's leaders in AI doing this. This is the Department of War, the official account of the Office of the Undersecretary of War for Research and Engineering, US government. Today, the Department of War, and this is from May 1, from yesterday, this tweet. Today, the Department of War entered into agreements with 7 of the world's leading frontier AI model and infrastructure companies to deploy frontier capabilities on the department's classified networks. SpaceX, OpenAI, Google, NVIDIA, Reflection, Microsoft, AWS, Amazon Web Services. These are 7 of the world's leading frontier AI model and infrastructure companies. They're going to deploy frontier capabilities on the US government's Department of War's classified networks. This is the latest initiative in America's mandate to create an AI-first war department. Meanwhile, India should beg the world for crumbs, and then you make sure that those crumbs are distributed equitably. That's what people like Nilekhani advocate for India, right? Interesting that you have Reflection here and not Anthropic. Interesting, but that's a different matter. Now, in the meanwhile, we have this. India seeks fair Mythos access. So Anthropic has this new model called Mythos. We don't know if it's a real model or not, but apparently it's super advanced, and it's so advanced that they have chosen not to release it to the public. And it's supposedly very advanced in cracking, in hacking and all that. So India seeks fair Mythos access. We don't have the know-how or the capabilities, or we have not bothered to invest in an AI ecosystem. So we want crumbs from others. Please give us fair access to Mythos. What is fair? What is fair? It's an American AI model. Is India expecting that the US giving India access to it is something that's fair? How is it fair? If I own it, I decide what happens to it. If I choose not to give it to you, how is it unfair? Because the product is mine, right? I don't know what sort of mindset India has. The mindset is that it is virtuous to beg and the one who has what we need, they have to give it to us if they are supposed to be, if they want to be considered fair in our eyes. Who cares what India thinks? Who cares whether India sees this as fair or unfair? I just don't get this mentally colonized mentality of Indians. So India is in talks with the US government for working out logistics of companies testing Anthropic AI model. Why can't India develop the world's best AI model and then stop worrying about these things? No, we won't do that. But we will go and beg to the Americans. Give us what is fair in our opinion. You develop the best model, now give it to us. Otherwise, we will say it's not fair. Good God. This is where India is today. Sad to see this. What else do we have? Okay, this is a totally different thing. This is by Silvio Bertoldi. Mappa delle basi militari e di intelligenze degli Stati Uniti sul territorio italiano. Sono molte, ma molte di più di quelle che dicono. E ancora ci continua a pensare ci siamo uno stato sovrano e non una colonia. Essentially, this is a list. This is a map of American military bases across Italy. And the person is saying that, this is for those of you whose eyes are still closed and you imagine that Italy is a sovereign nation. Uno stato sovrano, non una colonia. Means it's a sovereign nation and not a colony. Well, open your eyes and see what's happening here. Check it out. So I have been saying this for how many years? Essentially since forever. That nations like Italy, like Germany, like South Korea, forget about South Korea for now. Italy, Germany, and Japan, these have been under permanent US military occupation since 1945. Okay? So how many American military bases can you count over here on the territory of the nation of Italy? Good God. How many military bases the Americans have in Italy? In Italy, yes? Italy is not a free nation. It's not a sovereign nation. It's under permanent US military occupation. I wonder if somebody will put out a similar map for Germany. Yeah? Germany also is under permanent US military occupation since 1945. And Japan, more than 130 American military bases. And South Korea since the 1950s. You have a bunch of American military bases there. So that's about what is going on. That's the update for now. And now let me take your questions. I think the Ask Abhijit show is going is evolving into a new direction. It starts with me giving an update of what's happening, and then I take questions. Maybe we'll keep it like that, or maybe we'll see. So let's see, what questions do we have? Please get going. Ask me whatever questions you have, and I'll take as many as I can today. So, what questions do we have? We have Shalendra Chaudhary. Shalendra Chaudhary says, doomed. 21% land owned by Catholic churches, see it. The Catholic Church in India is India's largest non-government landholder. So the largest landowner in India is obviously the government of India. The largest non-governmental entity that owns land in India is the Catholic Church. Yeah, India is still under foreign occupation. India is still colonized, you see. The Catholic Church is the largest non-government landowner in India. And apparently, I don't know if these statistics are true or not. I haven't verified them. Maybe they're true. But looks like 21% of the non-government owned land is owned by the Catholic Church in India. And a lot of this land was given to the Catholic Church by the British when we were under British occupation. But this land, a lot of this land was given to the church on 99-year leases. And the leases have expired. The leases have expired, but the government of India is so cowardly, it doesn't dare take the land back. It doesn't dare take the land back. What if someone says we are not secular enough? What if someone accuses us of not being secular? Yeah? Then how can we have such a situation? So we will give away the land to the Catholic Church, which doesn't belong to them, which has been stolen from India. That's essentially the approach of the government of India. Sad to see this. Rohit Kumar Jha says, making hills and valley different states solution in Manipur? Absolutely not. So tell me something. Think about it like this. Let's say you have a nice 3-story bungalow that is yours. That belongs to you. That was built by your ancestors. Now let's say a bunch of okay, let's call them let's use polite terminology here, okay? Let's say a bunch of foreigners intrudes into your house and takes over the first and second floor. Okay, and they refuse to leave. So what is the solution? You then give away the first and second floor to the foreigners and you stay in the first floor? Is that a good solution? Is that a a just solution. Yeah. Just because a bunch of foreigners come and take over your territory, should we just give it away to them? Here is your cookie land for Christ. Enjoy. Is that the solution? The solution is to evict the foreigners from Indian territory. Because those foreigners aren't Indian. They have no allegiance to India. They have no love for India or India's people or India's culture. They are killing Indians. And now you will give away. A lot of commentators and experts, so-called analysts, are portraying the situation in Manipur as a fight between indigenous communities, as a tribal warfare. It's not a fight between indigenous communities. It's not a tribal war. The Kukis are foreign tribals. The Meiteis are not tribals. The Meiteis are a highly cultured people. So these foreigners have encroached into Indian territory with the full knowledge of the government of India for decades. And now they have become the majority in Manipur. They were killing Meiteis from 2023 onwards. Now they're killing Nagas. Right? That's the situation. So what? You give them what they want. Is that the solution? No, that's not the solution. The solution is to evict all foreigners from India. And some of these foreigners have been living in India for decades. The British started settling them in the late 19th century. So those people who live in India, whose ancestors were settled by the British in the late 19th century, what do we do about them? They also aren't really Indian. They have no love for India. They see themselves as either Christians or Jews nowadays. What do you do? I think there should be a cutoff. The cutoff should be 1891, the year of the Anglo-Manipuri War, when the Manipuris lost to the British. They fought for their freedom and they lost. And that's when the British started settling the foreigners in India, in Manipur, which was then a princely state, let's say, right? So that sort of thing needs to be done. Is it fair? Is it unfair? I don't care if it's fair or unfair. I care about my country. It should be fair for India. You can't have a bunch of people who exist within India who have no love for India, who are not Indian in any way whatsoever. The Meiteis are Vaishnavas. They have lived there for more than 2,000 years, more than most likely 3,500 years. They have very deep roots in the soil. They have love for the soil, for the land. What love do the Kukis have for anything? They came from China, Yunnan. How are they Indian? Just because you have a bunch of them in government service doesn't make them Indian, right? So that's not the solution. The solution is not making hills and valley different states. The valley is 6% of the state, and all the Meiteis are forced to live in the valley when the state used to be their own, right? For 2,000 plus years, they have been taken out. This is a horrible apartheid policy. They aren't allowed to own their own land in the hills by law. What kind of law is this? If I am Indian, why can't I buy land in so and so place if I have the money? But Meiteis are not allowed to buy land in their own state outside of the 6% area of their state, which is the valley. And then they say that these people are, they are not happy with the situation. So that's not the solution. In short, that's the answer. That is not the solution. The solution is to evict all foreigners from India. That's the only solution. The root cause of the problem is the horrible violence unleashed by Kukis on the Meiteis and the Nagas, who are the two indigenous communities. The Kukis are an intrusive community. They are encroachers. They're infiltrators. The solution is to evict all foreigners. Then everything goes back to normal. Okay? Sergeant Skylan says, Russian analyst said that India is one of the 4 sovereign nations. Okay. That's okay. Everybody is now catching on to this, right? My framework. Everybody in the world is now catching on to my framework. 4 years ago, who was speaking about this? I was the only person. Now everybody has caught on to the idea. that there are only a small number of sovereign nations and everybody is making their own list. That's okay. Let them say what they want. Beckenbauer says, Namaskaram, Namaskaram. Look into Mossad spy Jonathan Pollard. Did he trade US secrets to Soviets for Russian Jews? Did the US take action against Israel? Okay, so I can look into this person, but first of all, did the US take action against Israel? The US has never taken any action against Israel. So that's your answer right away. Now let's see who this person, Jonathan Pollard, is. Was he part of one of the spies caught in the year of the spy? First of all, let's Google year of the spy. The year of the spy. There was somewhere in the 1980s or something, right? 1985. So who were caught? There we have it. Jonathan Pollard. Yes, he was caught. And he provided classified information, classified documents to Israel. So yeah, there we have it. I was pretty sure that this person would turn up in this year of the spy. So let us see. 1985. So who's Jonathan Pollard? Of course, I'm aware of the year of the spy and all these things. I must have read about this guy Pollard, but I don't remember right now the specifics. So Jonathan Pollard grew up in South Bend, Indiana. His family lost 70 relatives during the Holocaust, and he dreamed of avenging these wrongs. He attended Stanford University, where he falsely boasted that Israeli intelligence paid his tuition, and his father worked for the CIA. After leaving graduate school at Tufts University, he became a civilian U.S. Naval Intelligence Officer in 1979. He earned a promotion in 1984 and immediately passed satellite imagery and CIA reports to Israeli agents unsolicited. Apart from cash, he received jewelry and a honeymoon on the Orient Express for his wife, Ann Henderson. Pollard reportedly admitted to selling materials that could fill a 10 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot space to Israeli intelligence, from where it is claimed some intelligence specialists believe that the Soviet moles then passed those secrets along to Moscow. Pollard's need to constantly handle classified materials drew too much attention, and he was arrested by the FBI on November 18, 1985. He pleaded guilty to espionage and received a sentence of life to prison on June 4 of life in prison on June 4, 1986. After Anne served her 5-year sentence for unauthorized possession of government documents, she divorced Pollard. In April 2008, federal prosecutors accused 84-year-old retired U.S. Army engineer and New Jersey resident Ben Ami Khadish of passing intelligence to an Israeli official who also received information from Pollard. So Ben Ami Khadish is dead. Pollard, is he alive? He's still alive. What's his current status? Is he incarcerated? Yes, he seems to be incarcerated. Okay. Jonathan Pollard. Okay. American-born Israeli spy and so on and so forth. Did he immigrate to Israel? So what happened? Is he out? Was he released? His parole expired due to his wife's health issues. His wife, she divorced him? Okay. They arrived in Israel on December 30, 2020 on a private jet owned by US billionaire Sheldon Adelson. They were greeted on arrival by Israeli Premier Benjamin Netanyahu, who handed Pollard his Israeli passport and documentation. Israeli Intelligence Minister Eli Cohen said that Pollard would be granted a government stipend equivalent to pensions granted to former Mossad and Shin Bet agents, and so on. Okay, so he has been honored in Israel. He's receiving a generous pension, etc., etc. I thought that he would be in jail for life, but clearly it was not the case. So the US allowed this gentleman to move to Israel, and is living a comfortable life there. Did the US take action against Israel? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. How can that be done? And Mr. Pollard was honored by Mr. Netanyahu on arrival. So, yeah, interesting story here. Yeah, one of the spies who was caught in the year of the spy, 1985. Okay. Kakashi says, Aditya Kaul, Durandar researcher said, interestingly, Israel-India ties have risen in the past 10 years, but less known, so have Israel-Pakistan ties. He declined to say more. Okay. Um, I'm not sure if there's a question here, but yes, I would agree that Israel and Pakistan, they have their own ties. I imagine they have a pretty. I don't imagine. I can surmise that they have a pretty good relationship off the record, off the books. Yeah. India Israel ties, they have grown. Sure, they have risen, etc. But Pakistan Israel also. So I would agree with Aditya Kaul. I would agree with him. He declined to say more. Well, looks like he knows a thing or two about things, perhaps. I believe he has spent time in Israel of late. So he may know a thing or two about various matters, potentially. Okay. Anabil Sarkar says, not gonna lie, your Trump mimicry is amazing. All I do is this. I don't know how to do his face or his voice. All I can do is this. That's it. Anyway, thank you. Awesome Arnav says, Sir Check-in Cool Abhijit has answered 22,000 questions so far. Also, I have access to Claude Mythos. It's overhyped, not that dangerous. Okay, Check-in Cool Abhijit. Checkin.cool/Abhijit. Yeah, I remember you had shown me that. Let me once again see. Let's go and check it out. Checkin.cool/Abhijit. Checkin.cool/Abhijit. Ask Abhijit unofficial. Okay. So it's answered more than 22,000 kilometers. No, sorry, questions thus far. Fascinating. Journeys. What are journeys? Start with the origins, topics, geopolitics, technology, personal advice, meta. Well. Drugs and treatments. There are two questions. Okay. Interesting. What else? History, society, and culture. What's gems? Gems. Top ranked deduped inside bearing view questions. You've done deduplication. The most upvoted substantive version of a question. Okay. So it's answered more than 22,000 questions so far. That's very interesting. Yeah. A lot of questions people are asking that are so that's actually a very useful tool to have because see, I've answered so many questions on this show. I suppose most questions that people would have for me, I've already answered those. But I have to answer them all over again every time somebody asks me because many of you are new members and you would perhaps not know how to find old questions I've answered. So I think it's a great tool to have. Good. I'm very grateful to you for having created this. And you have access to Claude Mythos. It's overhyped, not that dangerous. So in that case, why are they restricting the access to this AI model? I wonder. Are they running out of GPUs? Is that what the issue is? What is it? So it's overhyped. So the version of Claude that's the most powerful version of Claude that's accessible to the public is, I believe, Opus, right? Opus 3.7, 4.7, whatever it is. And there's one called Sonnet. And there's a Haiku and so on. So Mythos, what's the context window, I wonder? Is it still 1 million tokens? The context window matters a lot. Anyhow, so thank you so much, Osavarnav. Thank you. Have you emailed me? I'll have to see. You had said you would email me. I'll check it out. Okay, Prataradana says, since you have called him out by name, these Nilekani types are those ancien regime holding the country back. I agree with you. These are the people holding the country back. These people are positioned as thought leaders, as industry leaders. These are the people who are holding the country back. Industry leaders in the Indian IT industry. The Indian IT industry is an antiquated dinosaur that exploits Indian IT personnel, IT workers. It exploits Indian IT workers. Okay, I have for some time been inside the IT industry. I have served as a cyber coolie for a while. So I know exactly how this industry is. It's exploitative. Okay. And people who are inside it, they over time they develop Stockholm syndrome. And they believe it's the best industry that you can be part of. You're being exploited. And the IT industry in India, it works on the basis of labor arbitrage. So Indian labor is cheap. You can pay them a paltry little salary. There's so much demand in India for IT jobs that you can pay people really less. And if they don't like it, if they move out, you can always bring somebody else in. And jobs are so scarce in India, nobody wants to lose their job, so they just accept low salaries. Of course, you must have heard that there are people in Bangalore, youngsters, who get like big packages. That's the exception. It's not the norm. It's not the rule. Okay. So most Indian IT employees are exploited. They are paid a small salary. And then the IT company, what it does is it exploits the difference of what they pay to the IT to their employees and what they gain from the client. So it's typically billing hours. They bill the client at about, I don't know, hypothetically, let's say it's $20 an hour for each person who works on a project. Let's say you've got 10 guys working on a project, 10 human beings working on a project, and let's say you're billing your client $20 an hour. And let's say each person is working 8 hours a day. You're gonna make them work more, but you bill them for 8 hours. So each person you're gonna bill them for what? 820 times 8, $160 a day for one person. And if you were 10 people working, it's $1,600 a day. Right? 16,000 in 10 days. It's about $50,000 in a month you're gaining for those 10 people. And what? You can pay them peanuts. So that's how the Indian IT companies make money, right? And so on. So they don't develop anything of any use. These Indian IT companies have no interest in developing world-class products. All they want to do is make money. That's it. That's all. And that's why India is always far behind everybody else in the cutting edge of any technology. So while the West is developing frontier AI models and the innovation and the progress is happening at breakneck speed, India's IT sector is still living in the 20th century, antiquated, ancient. Oh yes, we are adopting AI. Now we are using Codex to review our software. Good for you, bro. Good for you. Sad. Right. So these are the people who are holding the country back. Absolutely. The Nilekani types. Kakashi says PM wastes huge time on elections, rallies, and freebies, while China races ahead. We should have had a communist style dictatorship with Netaji, but democracy sour. See, the prime minister has no choice. If you don't let's say, waste time on elections and rallies and freebies and reservations and God knows what else, then the average Indian person will not vote for you. The average Indian person is very low IQ, unfortunately, no understanding of how the world works. They want things for free. They expect the country owes them something. And why is the average Indian person like this? Because of the rotten education system. If you fix the education system, the average Indian person will have a much higher IQ. They will understand things much better. And they will then not want India's leaders to waste time in this manner on elections and rallies and freebies and all that. But here we have Indians who regard movie actors, entertainers as gods. That's the level of India's the level of intelligence of the average Indian. So it's a self-reinforcing cycle. You ensure the education system remains mediocre, remains rotten. So the average IQ of the average Indian is low. The average Indian doesn't understand the world. They are mentally lobotomized and colonized. And that's why they keep expecting election rallies and all these freebies and all that stuff. And that's how the cycle keeps going. So in a democracy, an election is a popularity contest. It's not about who is the best leader. It's about who can get the most votes. And that's why the cycle continues on. If we had a communist style or whatever style dictatorship with Netaji, things would have been very different. And I would say much, much, much better. But democracy. We are stuck with democracy, and this is what we keep getting. We keep getting mediocrity. We keep getting average results. Right? So that's the situation in India. And China is racing ahead. The US is racing ahead. China is a dictatorship. The US is also an autocracy masquerading as a democracy. The US races ahead. China races ahead. Even Russia will race ahead eventually. Well, India keeps doing democracy and keeps sloganeering. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, superpower sar, what else? Vishwaguru, all that stuff. Yeah. Sachadev Satyajit says, unfortunate that breakthrough Starshot has been cancelled. Is there any hope for an interstellar probe in the century? What will it take? Has it been cancelled? I have not been keeping track of this. Let's see. Breakthrough Starshot. What happened to it? It was. That's sad. Breakthrough Starshot was a research and engineering project by the Breakthrough Initiatives Program to develop a proof of concept fleet of light sail interstellar probes named Starship and so on. And the objective was to make the journey to the Alpha Centauri star system 4.34 light years away. So what happened? In September 2025, Scientific American reported the project was on hold indefinitely. And the project had spent about $4.5 million of the proposed $100 million by this point. Okay, so the target planet was Proxima Centauri b, which orbits within the habitable zone of its star. So why did it get technical challenges? Well, that's only one challenge there. Powerful enough lasers for that. And why did it get cancelled? It doesn't say much about why it got cancelled. It's not happening. It's not happening. Cancel. Let's see. Breakthrough Starshot is likely dead. It's not been formally cancelled, but it's considered to be on hold, paused, or quietly wound down. Phase 1 achieved its technical goals and proved the concept viable. But I think the funders lost interest in the project. Yuri Milner perhaps lost interest. So an initial $100 million initial investment was announced, but only a fraction has been spent and so on. Okay. So what is this project? There's something called light sail technology. Light sails are very thin metallic sheets that act like sails in sailing ships. And the concept is you use radiation pressure to accelerate a spacecraft, a small, tiny spacecraft with a big sail. Radiation pressure, what kind of radiation? You could use the sun's radiation, but that will take too long. So you use high-powered lasers and you beam those lasers at the sails of the small spacecraft that are in orbit. And that's how you can accelerate them to a significant fraction of the speed of light. So the only hurdle in this technology is to have powerful enough lasers. And that is an engineering problem. It's not something that's, it doesn't fall afoul of the laws of physics. So that was the deal. So I'm not sure what happened. Is there any hope for interstellar probe in this century? Well, there's always hope. Maybe somebody else will take up the project. Yeah, it's certainly feasible. Somebody give me $100 million, I'll make it happen. So it's unfortunate it's not happening right now, but eventually, I think this century, a lot of progress can happen. We're going to have a return of humans to the moon in the next 2 3 years. The Americans are going to send humans to the moon. By 2050, I expect that there will be humans on Mars, most likely. And the next logical step is to launch tiny test probes far, far away. Maybe Proxima Centauri B, which seems to be the best possible uh, extra solar system target. I think it will happen sooner or later. Okay, Saurabh says, why not go full or mostly solar? Solar? Why not go full or mostly solar in today's sunny India? Um, because you still need fossil fuels for certain applications. For example, if you want commercial air flight, commercial airlines, you can't have solar aircraft, can you? Right? The Boeing class aircraft, the Airbus class aircraft, there's no technology to have aircraft of that size that fly on solar power. You don't have the technology thus far. When it comes to military technology, fighter planes, there's no way you can have a fighter plane class of aircraft that uses solar, right? Solar power. Helicopters, you can't do it. Fighter planes, you can't do it. Tanks, military aircraft, military vehicles, you need maximum power. You can't compromise on power and range and all that, right? So there's a lot of applications where solar power doesn't make sense as of now, right? In a couple of decades, we may have significant technological breakthroughs which could make solar power viable even for this such applications. But I think that's a huge amount of scope for India to go, at least in the civilian domain, as much solar as possible, because we are a very sunny nation. And it would reduce the pollution, it would reduce the smog that you will see all over India when you're landing or taking off. Any big city, you're landing or taking off in India, good God, the smog that you see, it's frightening, right? I mean, if you go to Delhi in winter, it's shocking the amount of pollution you have. So this will happen over time. I think we have in India, the government has ambitious plans for the adoption of renewable energy, green energy, solar energy, and so on. We can set up gigantic solar farms in various desert regions like Kutch in Gujarat and Rajasthan and so on. So it's a process. India is transitioning towards more and more solar and green energy. It won't happen overnight, but the process is on. So it's a good thing. Krishant Borduloy says, well, government of India has given 1 lakh crore fund for private R&D, and also Jeet Adani has said they are investing $200 billion in energy and AI, so there's hope. Okay, well, one should always be hopeful. So the government of India has given 1 lakh crore to private R&D. To whom? To whom? How do you decide who gets the money? And what has been the outcome of that so far? Today you have open source large language models that are almost as good as the frontier models now. So you don't need to have, you need a team of, let's say, 20 people. You give them 6 months, you give them all the GPUs they need, you give them whatever, you put them in a nice hotel or bungalow or whatever, give them all the food and everything they need, and tell them to go at it for 6 months, I think 3 months, 6 months, whatever, and develop the best model you can. And have 10 such teams across India, in different parts of India, and keep this going. That's all you need. You need the hardware, you need GPUs. You need talented people, a team of talented people working together, and give them access to all the open source models and all the weights and whatnot. A lot can happen this way. You don't need 1 lakh crores for that. Maybe you do, but the question is, where is the money going, and what's the outcome? What's the output of all this? That's what I'm wondering. In today's day and age, you don't need 10 years to develop AI models, right? You already have access to everything you need, all the information about open source models. Take those and improve upon them, do something innovative, make it your own. Yeah, so I wonder. The only constraint, the only bottleneck is the hardware. Jeet Adani has said that they are investing $200 billion in energy and AI. So there's hope. Well, Adani is a very professional company. I suppose they'll do a great job of whatever they're doing. So we'll see about that. We'll see. Let's keep an eye on that. Clive Falcon says, why don't India use its secret intelligence to put puppet leaders in Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh like the US to have a shield around itself? Yeah, sure, we can do it. But the US also is interested in the subcontinent and they have put their leaders. Understand? The Americans want to contain India. They have deeper pockets than India. India can, let's say, afford to give $1 million per month, let's say, to a puppet leader somewhere. The Americans will give 10 times that. If India matches it, the Americans will make it 10 times that. Right? The Americans have way deeper pockets than India. So, because of that, India is surrounded. And they have cultivated people in this region for a very, very long time, and so on. So that's the problem, right? It's not it's complicated. It's not as simple as you may imagine it is, right? The US is determined to contain India in its own neighborhood, which is why I say that in the Indian subcontinent itself, India is not the most powerful nation. The US is the most powerful nation in the subcontinent. Clive Falcon says, do you think Olympics are rigged for the West? Well, there's definitely cheating in the Olympics. Okay? If you watch boxing in the Olympics, you will see clear examples of cheating. There was, which year was it? 2012, was it London? Satoshi Shimizu. Satoshi Shimizu was a Japanese boxer. He is a Japanese boxer, must have retired by now. He was fighting against, I don't know whom, and he knocks the guy out 7 or 8 times. He knocks the guy out 7 or 8 times, and the fight is awarded to his opponent. That's the kind of cheating you have in boxing in the Olympics. In Beijing, there was various kinds of cheating against people who were competing with Chinese athletes, against people who were competing against Chinese athletes. There is cheating for sure. Another form of cheating is denying a nation the opportunity to represent itself. For example, Russian athletes aren't allowed to compete in the Olympics under a Russian flag. They have to compete against under some Olympic flag or some nonsense like that. And sometimes Russian athletes aren't allowed to compete at all because Russia has launched a war on Ukraine. Well, what about the Americans and Israel is launching a war on Iran? That's fine. So there are different sets of rules for different sets of countries. That sort of thing. So it's all rigged. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. Shalendra Chaudhary says 7 crore What are you talking about, sir? 7 crore hectares out of 32 crore hectares of total India. You are referring to something else you said in the past? I'm not sure. Are you talking about the Catholic Church? What are you talking about? Please be specific. Okay, please be specific. Don't expect that I will remember what you had said in like 1 hour ago or something. I've taken so many questions. Yeah, so sorry, I didn't get what the reference is, what the context is. Kakashi says patriotic cookies who play in Indian sports teams should stay. So this is where India loses always. You start making exceptions. No exceptions. No exceptions whatsoever. Okay? This is where you lower your standards by starting to make exceptions for specific cases and all that. All foreigners should be deported. All foreigners. That's it. Pratar Dana says Israel has imported cookies recently for war, I think. So what Israel does is that it imports cookies from India. The cookies, for some reason, now they claim that they have some Jewish ancestry. If you check their DNA, there is absolutely nothing Jewish about their DNA. And the cookies love to eat pork, by the way. But they are now Jewish. And they face racism in Israel. Everyone in Israel knows these people are not Jews. But they are being used by the Israelis as cannon fodder. They are being settled in conflict zones. They are being settled in territories the Israelis have taken from the so-called Palestinians. So the Palestinians still claim those territories. The Israelis have taken them, snatched them, and that's where the cookies are settled, where there is a potential possibility of conflict with the Palestinians, so-called Palestinians. So the cookies, they are illiterates. They have no qualities as such. So they serve in the armed forces in Israel, the IDF. That's what the cookies are used for. The Israelis are using them as cannon fodder. And and recently, I think about 250 or so cookies were 250 or so more cookies were imported to Israel recently. So it's an ongoing process. Well, I would say Israel should take them all. Kakashi says, other than A370, what good has happened in the last 10 years? 370 is a scary number. What it reminds me of is MH370, the Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, which is a big mystery. But Article 370. Look, a lot of good has happened in the last 10 years. India's economy has grown. It's doubled in size in the last 10 years. India has cut Pakistan down to size. India has called Pakistan's nuclear blackmail. It's called the bluff of Pakistan's nuclear blackmail. A lot of good has happened in India the past 10 years. Okay? It's not like it's all doom and gloom. The last year or so, after Operation Sindoor, it's like we are going backwards. Okay? After Operation Sindoor ended, it's like we started going backwards. But overall, last 10 years, there's a lot of good that's happened. Now, when you talk about Article 370, we have erased Article 370, let's say, withdrawn or whatever, on paper. But what has been the effect of that? How many Kashmiri Pandits have been able to return to Kashmir, their own homeland? Zero. So what's the point of doing things on paper? India is a nation of symbolic gestures. India is a nation of slogans. Everything is symbolism and sloganeering. If you have removed Article 370 and 35A, well, why haven't you made some changes on the ground? All your changes are on paper only. That's the problem with India. Everything is on paper. Why can't Kashmiri Pandits why can they still not return to Kashmir? Then what's the use of your Article 370 removal or whatever? What's the use? How many non-Kashmiris have been able to go and purchase land in Kashmir? How many people have done that? No one has done that, as far as I know. So what's the point of removing Article 370? It's all being done on paper. There's no actual change happening on the ground, which is very unfortunate. Kakashi says, apparently Saudi MBS begged Trump to attack Iran. Why? I don't know about this. I have not heard of this. I'm not aware of this, okay? So I can't possibly comment about this because I haven't heard of it. I personally have been keeping a close watch on the war, and I have seen no report that claims that Mohammed bin Salman begged Trump to attack Iran. I've not seen any such report. Maybe somebody has made such claims. If they make such claims, what's the evidence of that? I have no idea what evidence they have. So, no idea. Rohit says, India helped superpower Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan. Why they hate India? They don't see. Just because you help someone doesn't mean they will like you. If you want to be respected, you have to be feared. That's all. In international relations, in geopolitics, giving free help will not make someone like you or respect you. They'll privately laugh at you behind your back. If you want people to respect you, they have to fear you. That's something India doesn't understand. Kakashi says Trump says he's considering pulling all US troops from Spain and Italy as a punishment for them for not support as a punishment for them not supporting the Iran war. But why would Trump do that? I mean, is it some kind of privilege for Spain and Italy to have American troops on their soil? No, it's a punishment. Having foreign troops on your territory itself is punishment, right? We had British troops on our territory until 1947. Was it something we enjoyed? No, it was a punishment for us, a punishment for being weak. So having foreign troops on your territory is punishment. Withdrawing foreign troops is not punishment, it's a blessing. Yeah. So how is it a punishment for Italy, for example, if the Americans pull out their troops? It's liberation. Italy will celebrate. So Trump will not do that. It's all blah, blah, blah. It's all a lot of hot air and big talk, big words. Trump won't do that. Why would you take away your troops? Why would you take away the greatest leverage you have over a country? Your troops in that country's territory. They won't do it. If he does it, he'll be incredibly stupid if he does that. So I don't see that happening. It's just words. It's just Trump being Trump and saying all kinds of things, which a lot of which make no sense. That's what it most likely is. Kush Shah. Thank you very much, Kush Shah. No question, but thank you. Tej Dikshit says, this is just to let you know, you are the reason I cleared my UPSC CDS exam in the first attempt and subsequently got commissioned as an officer in the Indian Army. Salutations, or learned one. Incredible. First of all, congratulations that you cleared the UPSC CDS exam in the first attempt. You are now commissioned as an officer in the Indian Army. Congratulations. If it happened through your own hard work and study, I would say. So you should take full credit for what you achieved. But thank you so much for your very kind words. Did you actually use my material to study? I think that would not be advisable because my material goes against what you find in UPSC's source material or whatever. But yes, I do tell people to serve the nation, right, in whatever way you can. So maybe that is what you mean. But anyhow, thank you so much, and I'm very happy that you achieved this. And go ahead, serve the nation, do very well for yourself, do very well for the nation. Have a great, successful career ahead, Dikshit. Congratulations and all the best. Do very well. All the best. Fabian Thomas says, as religious conversion is real, my ancestors chose it. Why not require government require government certification to adopt new religion now, like marriage, and still protect freedom? Okay, so you, I think you must be an Indian Christian then, right? And you said that your ancestors chose religious conversion. Okay, well, if that's what you believe, good for you. I'm sure that's what your ancestors must have told you. Your parents, grandparents, their grandparents must have said that our ancestors converted willingly to a superior religion. But we all now know how it went. I know people who are converted Christians. Their ancestors converted, let's say, a few centuries ago. They all say our ancestors converted willingly. We all know what the truth is, right? So anyhow, that's one matter. Now you're saying, why not require government certificate to adopt a new religion now, like marriage? I think religion is a personal matter, and the government should stay out of it. If, let's say, somebody wants to convert to a new religion, to a different religion tomorrow morning, I think they should have the right to do it, and the government should stay out of it. Why do you need a government certificate if you wants to convert to a different religion. Let's say you practice religion X and you are strongly drawn over time to religion Y. And then one day, one morning, you say, okay, this is it. I am now officially converting to religion Y. I am abandoning religion X. Why do you need a certificate for that? Start practicing religion Y and that's it. End of story, right? You should have the full right to do that. As long as you do it willingly and that call for change comes from within you, right? That's perfectly fine. I have nothing against that. And you are completely free to do that, right? Your freedom is anyway protected in India. So I'm not sure why you would need a government certificate for something. Keep the government out of our personal matters, I would say. The government already intrudes too much into everything. For example, they intrude into the way of life of Hindus. They control temples where they have no business controlling temples. So I think we should keep the government out of religious matters. That's my opinion about it. I don't know why we would need a government certificate to adopt a new religion. You adopt your new religion, you practice your new religion. How does anyone care? How is it anyone's business? It's your choice. It's your life. Do whatever you like. Kakashi says, did you see Ram Madhavji's Sepoy Act in the US? Absolute groveling, like please, Sar. Also, why did our defense minister say terrorism has no nationality? Well, I have not seen Ram Madhavji's whatever act in the US. I'm not aware of it, so I can't say anything about it. I don't know what it's about. Absolute groveling, like please, Sar. Okay, so if that is the case, I'm glad I haven't seen that. And I'm not sure how this gentleman, Mr. Ram Madhav, is relevant for India-US relations. He's not a government minister or official, right? I'm not sure what the context is over here. That's what all I'm asking. I know that he operates a very a pretty big think tank, right? India Foundation, which I think is concerned with foreign policy, etc. So maybe that's the context. I'm not sure, but I haven't seen what he has done in the US. I'm not aware of it, so won't be able to comment about it. Why did our defense minister say terrorism has no nationality? I am not aware of this also. Did he say that? Terrorism has a nationality. It's Pakistani. Terrorism is mostly Pakistani. Maybe he said it has no religion. Is that what he said? I don't know what he said. If you're talking about nationality, terrorism has a nationality. It's Pakistani. Right? So I don't know in what context what was said, but my POV, my perspective is that terrorism is mostly Pakistani. Most terrorists in the world are Pakistanis. I shall not go into the religious matters. Okay, but nationality terrorism is mostly Pakistani. That's my POV. That's my perspective. That's how I see it. I don't know what Mr. Rajnath Singh said or did not, so I will not comment about that. Prataradana says, Indian jet engine ecosystem is to get a boost with Kaveri certification in 2026. HAL's HTFE25 is next and produces half the thrust of Kaveri at 350 kilograms only. Well, that sounds good. So you have an engine, HAL's HTFE. Let's look it up, shall we? HAL HTFE 25. What is that? Nope. HAL HTFE HTFE 25. So what is this engine? It's a 25 kilonewton turbofan engine. So you can use it for a small aircraft. Okay, it's a small turbofan engine. It can be used for single engine trainer jets, UAVs up to 5 tons, and so on and so forth. Business jets as well. But you would need 2 of those. Well, that's good. It's good that you have this. And the Kaveri certification in 2026. So the Kaveri engine will get a piece of paper. Certification. Okay. Okay, it's going good overall. The Kaveri engine, I think it produces more than 50 kilonewtons of thrust. What's the Newton, by the way? What is thrust? Thrust is a pushing force. A force is a pull or a push. The thrust is a pushing force. What is a force? Force is mass times acceleration. F is equal to ma. The unit of mass is kilograms. Acceleration is meter per second squared. So the unit of force is kilogram meters per second squared. That's called newtons. Kilonewtons is 1000 newtons. So HTFE 25 is 25 kilonewtons. So it produces 25,000 kilogram meters per second squared of force. Okay. It's a good amount of thrust. So what we need is the Kaveri to become, a real contender for a professional jet engine that can be used in a fighter plane. It should be able to produce a sufficient thrust, should be able to produce even more thrust with afterburner, and it should have a decent amount of lifetime between overhauls. So that's what we need, and I think it's a work in progress. So overall, good going, I would say, good going. McLevin says, can you take live chat questions on your next live? I can do it, but once again, the quality of questions goes down when I do that. You see, and if you want, I can do it. I mean, I can do all kinds of different experiments. But there's a reason why I've moved to super chats, because the quality is better. When somebody puts a little bit of money, then they don't ask stupid questions. And when there's just live chat, not super chat, there's so many questions. I don't know which one to pick. It's more difficult for me when I take just live chat questions. Super chat makes my life easier. So that's why I have chosen to now go for super chats. For 4 years, I did not have super chats, right? I think it makes sense for me to have super chats now, because I've realized it is just the better way of doing things. Right? You know what? I understand where you come from. Maybe you're a young guy, maybe you're a student. And I have been a student. I know when you're a student, you don't have money for whatever, right? So what do I do for you, for so many others like you? I'll come up with a good solution. Yeah. Where you don't have to ask, I mean, you don't have to pay a single rupee to ask questions. I'll have to come up with some solution like that. We'll see about that. Okay. It's a work in progress. It's a process. The thought is in the framework is being thought about right now. We'll see about that. Yeah. Beckenbauer says, it is claimed the ancient Muziris port in Kerala is the biblical Ophir. Did Saint Thomas use this ancient trade route to reach India? Is it a myth? I have no idea. See, first of all, I am not aware of these Christian myths, what these are about. What is a Ophir? Ophir. I don't know what Ophir is. Let me see. Ophir. What is Ophir? A biblical region renowned for its immense wealth, particularly high quality gold, ivory, precious stones, apes and peacocks. Sounds like India. Yeah, sounds like India. Because apes and peacocks, you won't find them in Israel or whatever. You won't find them in Iran either. Do you have apes and peacocks in Iran? You may have peacocks, but not apes. So theories say it could be Somalia, Ethiopia. You don't have peacocks in Africa, do you? Somalia, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Indian coast, Sindh or Tamil Nadu or Kerala. Sounds like India. Muziris. What is Muziris? Let's see. Muziris. What is Muziris? Was a legendary 1st century BC 3000-year-old port city in Malabar coast. Why is it called Muziris? Doesn't it have an Indian name? Clearly, it's not an Indian name, right? Real name. Okay, Muchiri or Muchiri Pattanam. That makes more sense than Muziris. Why can't we use the actual indigenous word for it? Muchiri Pattanam. Why call it Muziris? So Muchiri Pattanam or Muiri Kuttu or Marichi Pattana or Murichi Pattana, etc. Okay. So this is a foreign adaptation, this Greek name Muziris. So I don't know what the story is. I don't know what the truth is. Um, I haven't studied the history of Kerala in much detail at all, and I am not aware of about these. I'm not familiar with these Christian myths and all that. So I don't know. The Saint Thomas person. It is alleged that he was he was massacred. No, he was murdered in India or something. Even that's a complete fabrication. So a lot of these stories are just myths and lies and fabrications and so on. Okay, Pyari Priya says AC global economic predictions amid multipolarity and conflicts, and best countries to settle in for the twilight years, factoring in India's trajectory. So, global economic predictions amid multipolarity and conflicts. Ah, look, right now, I don't expect the global economy to do well for the next few years because of the bifurcation of the world order. We are seeing two competing blocks emerge globally. There's the Russia, China, North Korea, Iran bloc, which also includes to some extent loosely the BRICS nations, which obviously includes India. And on the other hand, you have the Western bloc, the American led bloc, which is the old establishment. And these two blocks are competing for everything. They're competing for trade routes, they're competing for resources, they're competing for the which currency remains the most important currency and so on. So we are seeing a world that is increasingly in conflict. And because of this, the global economy is going to do poorly, especially because now the Americans are going after oil everywhere. They want to control all the biggest sources of oil. And that's why you have a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz that Trump has ordered right now. And if this sort of situation continues in the Gulf, well, there's going to be shortage of oil. And when there's a shortage of oil, the economies don't do well. So I expect the global economy to do poorly in the next few years, especially if this conflict in West Asia continues, which it looks like it could. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. Best countries to settle in the twilight years. Well, countries with a nice climate and high quality, high standards of living. Yeah. Australia could be good. New Zealand could be good. We have good relations with these countries, even though these are American vassals. uh, maybe Greece, maybe the Mediterranean region. India is friendly with all these nations. India is not an enemy of anybody, right? So, yeah, I mean, see, if you want to settle in a place where the quality of life is good and the climate is good. You don't want to settle in Manitoba or Quebec or something, right? Where the climate is frightening 8 out of 12 months a year, frighteningly cold. Um, so, yeah, I would say the Mediterranean region or Australia, New Zealand, Australia's south coast or east coast, obviously. New Zealand is much colder, but nice, peaceful way of life and so on. What else can I think of? Thailand is a good option. It's a warm country. It's you go to Bangkok, it's like Chennai, but overall better quality of life compared to India, and the culture is very similar that of India. It's more Indian than India. So there's multiple options like that. Yeah. All right. All the best. Kush Shah says, can't access the geopolitics from first principles. It will be accessible soon. I'm going to have to move it to a new platform right now. Okay. That's the issue. It's a temporary thing. It's a work in progress. I'm going to have to move it to a new platform and give you all access to it. because the platform that it is on, it's extremely difficult to deal with, unfortunately. So I'm in the process of moving it. Soon you'll have it back, and you'll get an email about the change. Ishita Bharadwaj says, discuss Agni 6 English communton tip make video on. What is English communton? English communton tip make video on. I don't know what English communton means. Discuss Agni 6. I know that we have Agni 5, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile. Some would say it's an intermediate range ballistic missile. So the Agni 5 has a range of roughly 8,000 kilometers. Okay, that's the stated range, about 8,000 kilometers. Let's ask Google what it thinks. Okay, what is the range? What is the best estimated range of the Agni 5 missile? What's it say? About 8,000 meters, 5 to 8,000 meters. Oh, it says over 5,000 kilometers to 5,500 kilometers. But there are significant indications that the actual operational range is higher. So I would say, let's say it's 8,000 kilometers, which is not a great amount from the way I see it. What about Agni 6? Do we have an Agni 6? Agni 6. Do we have an Agni 6? So allegedly it's under development. Okay. Agni 6 is a successor to Agni 5, precursor to the Surya missile. There have been rumors of a Surya missile for the past 25 years, 30 years. So what's the range? Missile description. 4-stage ICBM. Check out what it leaves out. Okay, so Agni 5 is, well, most of Eurasia. Agni 6 will be beyond that. Okay. This is all speculation, obviously. So according to sources, whoever they are, Agni 6 missile is likely to carry up to 10 MIRV warheads and will have a strike range of 12,000 kilometers. But obviously there's no confirmation of this. So what is MIRV? Multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. So one missile can carry like 10 warheads, which will all go in different directions, that sort of thing. Okay. Pratar says, try ULAA browser by Zoho, Chromium based but good. Let me see what this is. ULAA browser by Zoho. It's a browser that respects your privacy, protects your personal data, and helps you work online more efficiently. So it's by Zoho, by Mr. Sridhar Vembu, I would say. Okay. I shall check it out. It's based on Chromium, which is the parent browser of Chrome, the parent technology of Chrome. Okay, interesting. I'll check it out. Thank you. Thank you for the recommendation. Abhishek Srivastav says, what happened to India's BPO industry? Where it gone? I have no idea. BPO means business process outsourcing. I have no idea what the situation is with the Indian BPO industry. Can't say. Does it still exist? I suppose it exists. So what exactly is BPO? It's about outsourcing your business processes outside of your country, right? What exactly is BPO? BPO, business process outsourcing, contracting non-core business functions like customer service and payroll and IT services, data entry, etc., to outsiders. Back office, yeah. So back office and front office. Front office is customer-facing operations like marketing and customer support and all that, and then you have internal functions like HR and finance and so on. I have no idea what the state of the Indian BPO industry is right now. Don't know. I suppose it still exists. I'm not sure if it's gone, but I don't know. Okay, Kakashi says, I don't know if propaganda, but NK, North Korean capital Pyongyang, looks really good. I believe only North Korea can give US correct treatment. Also, Singapore is part of the Five Eyes, plus it's not sovereign. I have never said Singapore is a sovereign entity. First of all, it's too small to be sovereign. It's a city-state, Singapore. It's kind of like Hong Kong, right? So Singapore, How can you consider that to be sovereign? It's too small to be sovereign. If you're small as a nation, then you can't grow everything you need, which is why you're dependent on others for imports. If you're a small nation, you don't have enough territory for the resources you need. So you're dependent, critically dependent on other nations for vital imports. So how can you be a sovereign nation in that case? Anyhow, North Korea's capital Pyongyang looks really good. I have seen a couple of videos on YouTube where foreign tourists visit Pyongyang. I think you have to take a flight from Beijing. It's typically a North Korean Airlines aircraft. That's typically an ancient Soviet era jet, typically. And let's say you want to purchase a flight to Pyongyang. How do you purchase it? Let's see. How to purchase a flight ticket for Pyongyang. How do you do that? Do they have, or do Mumbai to Pyongyang flight booking? Really? Sky Scanner. So purchasing a flight ticket to Pyongyang requires booking a guided tour through an authorized travel agency, as individual travel is not permitted. Most tours depart from Beijing or other Chinese cities with authorized agencies like Young Pioneer Tours or Rocky Road Travel, handling visa applications and flight bookings. So you can't book flights independently. You have to select a tour operator that specializes in North Korea to arrange an itinerary. You have to typically go from Beijing or Shenyang or Vladivostok via Air Koryo. Okay. Visa processing. The agency will handle your visa, tourist card, once the tour is booked. And you need all the... Oh, so you need a Chinese visa too for that. So you have to go through these hoops to book a visit to Pyongyang. You have to book a tour through the tour agency and so on. And obviously, you will be given a curated tour of the city. You won't be allowed to go wherever you wish. You will be under constant supervision. You'll be chaperoned by a chaperone, that sort of thing. But from what you see on YouTube, whatever is shown looks pretty good overall. Yeah, it doesn't look shabby. I mean, there is a little bit of shabbiness, but not like terribly shabby. So overall looks good. Yeah, not bad at all. Okay, Bhashyananda Reddy. Bhashyananda Reddy says, heard Germany is joining war from sources in Great Nicobar. How can Germany join Great Nicobar? How? Tell me. It can join a war, but how can Germany join war and Great Nicobar? We will not allow Germany to join Great Nicobar. We can't have Germany as the new state of India, can we? Can we? Should we make it a union territory? But it has American troops on its soil, so it can't become a member of a part of India. And anyway, it's too far from Great Nicobar, right? Germany. How can Germany join Great Nicobar? Tell me. How is it possible? See what you've written here. You've written, heard Germany is joining war and Great Nicobar. How can Germany join Great Nicobar? How? Not possible. So it may join the war. Sources may say it may join the war. We'll see about that. Now, what about Great Nicobar? Do you want me to speak about Great Nicobar? Okay, we haven't opened the map today, which is a travesty. It's a travesty that we haven't opened the map today. So we must open the map. Okay. Where is map? Yes, is here. So we have this archipelago here, which is the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And here we have Great Nicobar, which is the southernmost. Is this great? Yeah, this is Great Nicobar, the southernmost island of India, southernmost part of India. And as you can see, it's not far away from Indonesia at all. So, which is the closest Indonesian island? Is this Indonesia? I suppose it is. It is Indonesia, Rondo Island. Do you have anything happening there? You have some habitation on Rondo Island. There's a helipad here, and there are some buildings. So, is this the northernmost part of Indonesia? It's possible that it is. So, how far is Rondo Island? And let's say which is the okay. So, how far is it from Great Nicobar? Here. It's about 160 kilometers away. So Indonesia is about 160 kilometers from India, and no Indian is aware of this. So here we have Great Nicobar, and you have an airport here. Okay, southernmost airport of India. So how long is the airstrip? Let's see. Let's see how long it is. It's about 1.2 kilometers long. So decentish aircraft can land here. But it's not the biggest airstrip. I don't know why they haven't extended it. No ambition in India, I would say. Why don't we have Air Force bases and naval bases here? We are planning. Yeah, sure. We're planning. What is this? Whatever it is. So this is Great Nicobar. And there's going to be a transshipment port that comes up here eventually, which will be great for India. So right now, I'm not sure what's happening here. Galathia National Park. Okay, nice. So I think it's mostly a tourist destination, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. You can land in. Can you land here, Great Nicobar? I think you have to go to Port Blair if you want to visit the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Port Blair is all the way up north here, somewhere. I think they changed its name, right? It's called what? Sri Vijayapuram now? And you have a much larger airstrip here. Let's see how long this one is. So where does it begin? It begins here, let's say. Okay. Begins here. Measure the distance. It's about 2 point something kilometers. This is a respectable airstrip. So this is a tourist destination. Lots of people visit here, I suppose. But Great Nicobar is going to be the home of a big transshipment facility, a transshipment port here, which is good for India overall, geopolitically, geostrategically. So that's about Great Nicobar, since you wanted me to speak about it. Okay, but I would disagree that Germany is planning to join Great Nicobar. It is not. Kakashi says, we crave respect validation from the West. Ironically, our subservient nature is why they don't respect India. Westerners respect Iran, Russia, and China way more because those nations stand up for themselves. Indians are like, Sir, please respect us. Sir, please. Sir, please. That's the Indian mentality. Because Indians have an inferiority complex. That's the problem. If you see Indian officials interacting with Westerners, you'll see that cringe subservience, cringe-inducing subservience. If you see Indian, whatever, the average Indian person feels that he or she is inferior to a white person, right? And this inferiority complex is created by the media, by the education system, and so on and so forth. And overall, India's policies and geopolitical behavior is that of a nation that really isn't confident enough, right? India is a massive nation, but it acts like a weakling. India is a soft state, even now, to a certain extent at least. So India measures itself against Pakistan, right? We focus on Pakistan. As long as we can defeat Pakistan, we are happy. So what you are saying is right. The world doesn't respect India because of these tendencies and these characteristics that India has. Abhijit Singh says, we are friends with Iran, but Iran is bombing the Middle East. We are somewhat friendly with Middle East, but they finance Pakistan. We are friends with Israel, who hates Pakistan and Iran. What's this mess? The world is a mess. The world is complicated. You can be friends with everybody. Iran is not bombing the Middle East. The West is bombing Iran. So it is completely incorrect to claim that Iran is bombing the Middle East. Iran was minding its own business until Israel and the US attacked Iran. And then Iran attacked the American bases in the Middle East. They have not attacked Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Manama, Doha, all that. They've not done that, right? They've not attacked civilian places. So first of all, that's wrong. Secondly, we are friends with everybody. They have internal problems. That's their problem, right? We want to be friends with everybody. So we are reasonably friendly with the Middle Eastern nations. We have very good relations with UAE. We have good, decent relations with Saudi Arabia. We have good, decent relations with Iran. We have good relations with Oman, and so on. We have good relations with Israel. It's not a mess. It's complicated. The world is complicated. The world is not a black and white place where, oh, I'm friends with you and we're all friends. No, it's not like that. The world is complicated. The world is a mess. It's messy business. And that's just what it is. Harshay says, does polygamy marriages is considered what? Does polygamy marriages is considered as cheating? Please explain this topic in detail. As we know, bad times create strong men, but for India, it's opposite. Weak men. Should we produce strong generations kings? Is polygamy considered to be cheating? Well, if you have a culture that allows polygamy, then it's clearly not considered to be cheating. Yeah. For example, Islam. For them, it's I think it's religiously sanctioned to for every man to be allowed to have 4 wives. It's not considered to be cheating. It's considered to be normal. In Hinduism also, there is no ban on polygamy, right? But most Hindus don't practice polygamy. And today it's illegal in India for anybody to practice. If you're a Hindu, you can't practice polygamy. If you're a Muslim in India, you can practice polygamy. So India is an apartheid state. If the Muslims can do it, why can't Hindus do it? Because Hindus are second-class citizens in India. So it's up to you, I suppose, right? If you think it's cheating, then don't do it, I'd say. Yeah. So in India, in Hinduism, it is not considered to be something bad or wrong or whatever. But you have examples of many kings who could have done it, who did not do it. Sri Ram, for example, he married only once, right? He did not have multiple wives. So it's a personal choice. Yeah. So yeah, it's not considered cheating, but I suppose if you have one wife and you want to marry one more, I don't think it will be a very popular thought with the wife that you have. Right? Okay. Pratardana says, US looks like oligarchy to me. What's your opinion? It's an oligarchy. It's an authoritarian dictatorial regime. The president doesn't matter. It's the deep state that rules the country. It's the Pentagon. It's the defense military establishment. And it's the businessmen who rule the country, the oligarchs. Right? It is an oligarchy. Of course, it is an oligarchy. That's what the US is. A very small number of people have the overwhelming majority of the money in the US. And they have been very careful to ensure that most people get a good standard of living while not being very rich. So there's a tremendous amount of inequality in the US, income and wealth inequality. That's the classic hallmark of an oligarchy. Yeah, it is. Abhinav says Nicobar Project Toolkit gang activated UVs. I'm not aware of what's happening. I don't follow Indian politics, so I'm not aware of what's happening. What Toolkit gang? So is there now this activation of an agenda against the Great Nicobar Project? Is that what it is? A bunch of politicians, whoever they may be, I'm not aware, so I don't know who it is. But yes, one would imagine that certain political parties will have politicians who will oppose the Great Nicobar Project, and they'll do it in a coordinated fashion. Because the Great Nicobar Project is very important for India geopolitically. It's very important for India. So some political parties will oppose that. No surprise if that's happened. I am not aware of what has happened. I've not seen the latest news, so I don't know, because I'm not a news surfer. I don't spend my time watching news, by the way. I hardly watch the news. I still know what's happening, not in real time. I may not know the latest news, but overall I know exactly what's happening. So that's how I do it. But yeah, if this has begun, then I'm not surprised at all, because the Great Nicobar project is very important for India geopolitically. Sagar Khare says, as SWE, what's SWE? As SWE, I'm currently working as an hourly resource for an American company. How can I plan my next 10 years to move beyond this and do something meaningful that benefits people in India? What is SWE? Sweden. Let me try and find out what SWE means. Okay, let's see. SWE full form. Software engineer. Oh, okay. You're a software engineer. You're a software engineer. SWE. Okay, okay, okay. So, as an SWE, as a software engineer, you're currently working as an hourly resource for an American company. How can I plan my next 10 years to move beyond this and do something meaningful that benefits people in India? So, if you want to do something that benefits more people, not just yourself and your family, but benefits people, you have to create something that's bigger than yourself. If you want to, if you want people to benefit from something, you have to create something. Right now, you are working for an American company as an hourly resource. So you're doing something that benefits them. Maybe you are maintaining code or design or whatever it is. If you want people, not some company, but people at large to benefit from what you do, you have to create something. Maybe you can, I don't know, create some product, create a company. If you create a small company, let's say, you get to hire people. That benefits other people, right? Because you're generating employment. So you have to put on a different thinking hat. Right now, your thinking hat, obviously, because of what you're doing, is that of an employee. Now you have to put on, whenever you get the time, for some time, a couple of hours a day, maybe for 1 hour a day, put on the hat of an entrepreneur, a thinker, or something, a creator. Create something. As a software engineer, you will have the skills. You will have software engineering skills. You will know programming languages and whatnot. So you will know how to create things, right? So put on a different thinking hat and figure out what you could create that will contribute something to people, and will also help you move on from what you're doing, move beyond what you're doing. So if you want to move beyond this, look, if you want to change your circumstances in life, you can either move to a different company, but then you remain an employee. But if you want to transform your circumstances in life, then you have to become self-employed, or you have to start your own company or something, which means you have to have a business idea or a set of business ideas. So that's the direction in which you need to think. Now, what those specifics are, you will have to figure out, because I don't know you personally. I don't know your exact background and all that. So you have to figure it out. But that's what you do. That's how you change your circumstances significantly and do something meaningful, something you create something. See, meaningful means creation. You have to create something for it to be meaningful. You can either be a consumer or a worker for somebody or a creator. There is meaning in life when you create things. So create something, right? That's what I would say. Specifics you have to figure out yourself. Okay. All the best, Sagar Kare. All the best. Do well. Do well and do create something good. Chirag Srinath says, hello, how do you assess ties between India and Japan today, especially Japan's offer to share Mogami class warship designs? Can India absorb and integrate such advanced naval technology from Japan? First of all, the second question, can India absorb and integrate such advanced naval technology? Of course it can. Of course. But I'm not aware of this offer from Japan. What is the Mogami class warship? Mogami class warships, Japan. It's a frigate. Mogami. Okay, let's first see what it looks like. Oh, looks sleek. Looks very sleek. Absolutely the best ship. Japan wins a $10 billion contract to grow Australia's war fleet. So this is the Mogami class frigate. This is an actual one. Looks sleek, looks very advanced. Looks like it has stealth characteristics, futuristic Mogami frigates. Okay, so now that we know about this, Mogami class frigates, India, do we have anything in the offing? So Japan has offered to co-produce its advanced Mogami class frigates in India. When did this happen? When? Why Japan is sharing its guarded Mogami class warship design with India? Tokyo has offered to give due the plans of its $500 million Mogami class warship. So it can be built in India using Japanese materials. Okay. The thing is, it's too expensive for India, right? But it's definitely very expensive, but it's very advanced technology. So maybe India should, buy a handful, maybe 3, 4 of these, and master the technology, and then use it for other warships. That sort of thing you could perhaps do. You can be creative and do a lot of good with that. So I think it's interesting that Japan has offered this. Now, understand this: Japan is not a sovereign nation. Japan, whatever it does, it's controlled by the US. Japan's foreign policy, Japan's economic policy, Japan's military policy, these aspects of Japan's existence are controlled entirely by the US. So if Japan says we want to produce this warship in India, the US is behind it. Now, why would the US have Japan offer something like this to India? There must be some reason behind it. And that's what we have to try and decode. Right? I'll have to think about this. I'm not sure what it's all about. See, firstly, it's a very advanced warship. Secondly, it's very expensive, $500 million a piece. So 2 warships will cost $1 billion. That's a lot of money. What I have been advocating is India should build a lot of cheap warships. A lot of cheap warships. Learn the lessons of the Iran war. Learn from the Iranians. They don't invest in billion-dollar technologies. They invest in very large numbers of affordable assets like drones and missiles. If you have that, then you can defeat anybody, including people who have billion-dollar war machines. So there must be some reason behind this. The Americans must be behind this. There's no harm in buying a couple of these warships and acquiring the technology. But overall, I think India should build large numbers of cheaper warships overall. Pratardana says Tata finally going to make batteries starting next year. Batteries. What kind of batteries? Car batteries, is it? Let's see. Tata to manufacture batteries starting 2027. Is it true? Let's see. Tata Group's battery arm, AGRIT Gratis, is on track to begin manufacturing lithium-ion battery cells in 2027 with a major 20 gigawatt hour factory currently under construction in Sanand, Gujarat. 20 gigawatt hour. Okay. Gigawatt hour is essentially 1 watt hour. A watt hour is what? It's joules, right? Okay, it's a unit of energy. It's joules. Yeah, it's joules. Okay, so 20 gigawatt hour factory currently under construction in Sanand, Gujarat. It will primarily supply cells for Tata Motors and Jaguar Land Rover vehicles, and so on and so forth. Okay, I think that's good news. Good news overall. Excellent. So we will have our own lithium-ion battery manufacturing plant, which will manufacture batteries for electric vehicles. Yeah, good, excellent. Anabil Sarkar says, how about AI Battle Royale? Winner gets the funding. That is, top winner of the competition gets government-backed funding that will attract talented engineers. What you can have is a yearly competition between the IITs. And every year one big winner who gets funding for 5 years or something, and you do it year after year. So in a few years, you have a large number of such groups. So you can be creative with this. First of all, the government has to be willing to give money. Yeah, you can have an inter-university competition. You can have inter-IITs competition, inter-NEETs, or whatever it is, competition. You have so many institutes and organizations in India where you can have competitions that will throw up, the best talent. You'll be able to discover the best talent, and you'll be able to fund them. There's a tremendous amount of scope in India for such competitions, and that will help bring the talent out in public. So yeah, you can do that. Clive Falkin says, what are your views on the Nordic model, and do you think it can work in high populated nations like 200 million plus, and is homogeneous important for what is the Nordic model? Nordic model of what? High altitude skiing? Nordic model of governance? Which Nordic model? Let's see, what is Nordic model? A comprehensive socio-economic system practiced in Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden, combining free market capitalism with a robust taxpayer-funded welfare state. It features high levels of public service, strong labor reforms, low income inequality, universal healthcare, free higher education, comprehensive social safety nets. I think it's a good model. They also have a sovereign fund and so much more. Yeah, I think it's a great model. I'm not sure if it can be implemented in India at this point in time, but it's a great model to have. It's great for the people. It's truly a model that puts the people first, right? You need a good system for that. You need the system to be truly non-corrupt. It's impossible to have a completely non-corrupt system, but as far as possible, and much more, you need to have a high trust society and all. I think it can work in nations with high populations. It certainly can. And it's not important for a nation's population to be homogeneous for this to work. I think it's a great model overall. Sujal Rajput says, see Raga recent statement on Great Nicobar project. Is he and other leftist YouTubers paid by CCP? Now you're asking me to dive into Indian politics. I don't do that. Okay, so I haven't seen, first of all, any statements by any Indian politicians about the Great Nicobar project, because I don't look into Indian politics. I don't do that, right? I look at geopolitics, international relations, and great power competition. I look into that. So I am not aware of who has made such statements, and I can't speculate about who may be paid by CCP or whatever. Why do you think it's CCP that's paying somebody, hypothetically? Why don't you think it's CIA that's paying people, hypothetically? Why CCP? Why not CIA? Or maybe both. All hypothetically, obviously. YouTube, see, leftist YouTubers, how do you know they're leftists? Maybe they're just fond of money, whoever they may be. So I can't speculate about who may be or may not be on the payroll of foreign countries, whether it is the Chinese Communist Party, whether it is the United States. I have no idea. I don't know. How will I know? I don't know. And I haven't seen so-and-so politicians' statements about the Great Nicobar project. But the Great Nicobar project is very important for India, and it's a project that needs to go ahead at the earliest. Shatabhish says, can the immune system be considered to be conscious as we know it? Is it relatable to evolution as the product of an intelligent design that keeps self-adapting? So we don't know if evolution, if this intelligent design or what, that's all speculation. There is absolutely no evidence of intelligent design. Intelligent design means there's some designer who has designed us, that sort of thing. And now that he or she or it has designed us, now evolution has taken over and we keep evolving on our own. That is intelligent design. We have no idea of whether it's true or not. There's no evidence of it. It is speculation. Can the immune system be considered to be conscious as we know it? I don't consider my immune system to be conscious. I don't consider my cells to be conscious. I mean, not the way we understand consciousness. Cells, microscopic cells, they are somehow or the other aware of their surroundings. Now, when you talk about the immune system, you have various cells that are part of the immune system. There are the white blood cells, macrophages, T cells, and so on and so forth that seek and destroy, that seek out foreign infiltrators and destroy them. Right? So they are aware and conscious of what's around them. And they can differentiate a red blood cell and a cell that belongs in here from a cell that does not belong, from an organism that doesn't belong in here. So they have some amount of awareness, let's say, but can we call it consciousness? I'm not sure. But microorganisms are aware of their surroundings, and they do look out for themselves. They want to survive and so on. So there is a primitive, very basic level of consciousness in individual cells. But the system overall, it's part of the human body. I'm not sure if the system can be considered to be conscious, no more than the lymphatic system or the circulatory system or the cardiovascular system. Those systems aren't conscious, they are part of the overall thing. So I would not consider the immune system to be conscious on its own separately from our human consciousness. Okay. Chirag Srinath says, have seen the coordinated attempt in the last few days in India. Last few days. Okay. Have seen the coordinated attempt in the at stopping. Last few days in India, in the at stopping. Okay. India advances the Great Nicobar project with so many voices from abroad opposing it when it's doesn't even concern them. Well, that's obviously because this is good for India. See, so many voices from abroad, right? That's from the West. I have not seen the news, but I can tell you what's happening. I am not aware of this at all, okay? But let me tell you what's happening. There's a large number of voices from the West that are saying this is bad for India's environment. It's bad for the pristine environment of the Great Nicobar Island, which is a biological, ecological treasure for the planet. So India should not destroy the fragile ecological balance in the Great Nicobar project by going ahead with this Great Nicobar transshipment hub port project. It's fine for Trump and Israel to destroy the environment in the West Asia region with their millions of bombs. That's fine. Nobody will say a word about that. But if India wants to build a port in Great Nicobar, they'll have a problem with that. So it's going to be the West. All these voices will come from the West, but not just the West. So in the West, there's going to be think tanks. There's going to be various academics. There's going to be journalists. Some politicians are going to be there. And in India, there's going to be various NGOs and people from certain political parties. And all these people from the West, from India, etc., they will all raise their voices in a synchronized, coordinated fashion. I suppose that's what's happening. See, I'm telling you what's happening without knowing anything about what's happening. See, that's the advantage of understanding how these things work. You don't have to see the news. You know what's happening. Okay. So when it comes to these voices from the West, this doesn't concern them. No, but it's the West, right? The West always has the moral high ground. The West is superior to people like us. The Westerners are superior to us. So they hold the moral high ground and they will teach us how to behave. They will teach us what is right and they will teach us what is wrong because we clearly are too primitive to understand right from wrong. That's what they do. And they understand that Indians have an inferiority complex. So if somebody with a white skin says something, most Indians will believe, oh my God, the government of India must be wrong. And that's the pressure these people seek to apply on the government of India. That's what's happening. So how should the government of India make sure such pressure can't be applied on it? By reforming the education system, but they're not willing to do that. Fast Snail says, is US in a similar situation as UK RAF when it took on Germany in World War One. Point of no return. UK got bailed out by the US, but now the US has to come back on its own. You're talking about the war against Iran? See, uh, in the Second World War or First World War, whenever, when the UK's RAF took on Germany on its own, let's talk about the Second World War. The Germans blitz England, didn't they? Blitzkrieg with the V1 cruise missiles and the German Air Force, with the Luftwaffe, right? They had the Messerschmitts, the Henkels, the Stukas, the Focke-Wulfes, and so on. And the English had the Spitfires and so on. And that was a battle of survival for the UK. So, for the US, it's not a battle of survival. They're not fighting for the survival. They're fighting to destroy Iran. There's no comparison. In Iran, the US is the aggressor, and they had underestimated the Iranians. That's what's happened. In the 1940s in England, the Germans were the aggressors, and England was fighting for its survival. Totally different scenario, right? So the US, well, right now it's taken a bloody nose from Iran, and right now they are bringing in more arms, ammunition, and whatnot to the region, and maybe they will launch a new attack on Iran sooner or later. That's a high possibility. But I would not compare it with the situation you had between England and Germany. I would not compare it with that. Pratardana says Kaveri certification means it will need to fly on an Indian test bed soon, likely a modified Sukhoi 30. Seeing it fly with a modular afterburner is exciting. It certainly is. You know what's funny? India doesn't have a test bed. If India wants to test an aircraft engine, India has to send the engine, that has to ship the engine all the way to Russia, and the Russians will fit the engine onto a Russian test bed and then test it. India doesn't even have a test bed until now. So I suppose sooner or later we will have to modify something, yeah, and maybe a modified Sukhoi or something, and then test various jet engines. So it will be great to see it, yeah. Kaveri certification, to see it with the afterburner and so on. It'll be great. Okay, I am too cool, says big fan and listener from episode 1. Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a while. Yeah. Also a fellow researcher and PhD candidate, AI and CV. AI and CV. AI, I do know, obviously. That's fantastic. What is CV? Let me see. What is AI and CV? What is AI and CV? Artificial intelligence and CV. I'm not sure what CV is, but I do get what AI is, obviously. Computer vision. It's computer vision. Computer vision. Okay. You're working on AI and computer vision. You're doing a PhD in these fields. That's fantastic. Computer vision is exciting. It's a really exciting technology, right? There's a lot of work to be done in that. So yeah, great. So first of all, you've been watching since episode 1. That was which year? 2021, was it? It's been a long time now. Yeah. So thank you so much for having been a long time viewer of mine, and do well in your research. Get your PhD soon and then have a great career. All the best, sir. All the best. Do well. Akshit Sharma says, Namaste. Today I got scared when I received emergency alert broadcast message. I thought it was like Israel's pager attack. The government of India gave everybody a mini heart attack, right? I think. I hear that on some phones you could not switch it off. On some phones, like Android phones, you could switch it off, but on iOS devices you could not switch it off, and it just went on and on. Right. So pretty scary, right? They should have announced it in advance or something, but whatever. I suppose whatever they were trying to do worked. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, what causes gravity? How is it related to space-time? What causes gravity is the curvature of time and space. Curvature of space and curvature of time too. Time itself is curved, and that's what causes gravity. So, for example, if you have a weight of, let's say, 70 kilos, most of those 70 kilos come from the curvature of time more than the curvature of space. Now, what curves time and space? Hello, hello, hello. I hope I'm being heard. I just slammed my mic. So, okay. So, what causes curvature? It is the presence of mass that causes curvature of space-time. See, the arena, the stage that the universe operates on, that stage is called space-time. It's a four-dimensional fabric, three dimensions of space and one dimension. The fourth dimension is called time. And the presence of mass curves space-time. It causes curvature of space-time. And the curvature of space-time tells mass how to move, and the curvature of space-time is what we perceive as the force of gravity. So gravity is caused by the curvature of space and time. And it's more of the curvature of time that causes gravity than the curvature of space, at least for us on Earth. All right? Sujal Rajput says UAE has exited OPEC. What does it mean for the global oil market? Can India use the Saudi UAE oil rivalry? Well, India can't use it, but let me explain what's going on here. The UAE has been a member of OPEC for decades, right? OPEC is dominated by nations like Saudi Arabia, etc. And they have forced smaller nations, which are part of OPEC, to cut down on oil production and so on and so forth. And that obviously means lost revenue for nations like the UAE. The UAE is also a major oil producer. It has something called ADNOC, Abu Dhabi National Oil Corporation or company, whatever it is. So you have oil in Abu Dhabi, you don't have oil in Sharjah or, I don't know about Sharjah, but Dubai, no. You have oil in Ras Al Khaimah, in Fujairah, and so on. So this war that's happened, this blockade of the Strait of Hormuz that's going on, it's given the UAE the perfect opportunity to break free of the constraints imposed by other members of the cartel like Saudi Arabia and so on. So right now there's an oil blockade, there's a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz going on. So the UAE has exited this, which means that whenever the blockade is lifted, it can export as much oil as it wants to anyone it wants. And it is no longer bound by the constraints imposed by nations like Saudi Arabia. Right? So it's freedom for the UAE. And they are planning in advance. Right now, they can't export too much oil because of the circumstances. But once, maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a few months, or whenever the blockade is lifted, the UAE will be prepared. It will be ready. It will know exactly what to do. So that's what's happened. India can't use this Saudi Arabia UAE rivalry. No. Okay. DA says, can you comment on Kishore Mahbubani's suggestions for India's future policy? I haven't seen his suggestions. So how do I comment? Do you know what his suggestions are? He is kind of a pro-China person. I know that. He is a Singaporean citizen, Indian origin, obviously. And the way, see, I haven't really looked into him in great detail, his pronouncements into great detail, but he is a very highly regarded commentator, political scientist, like they say. I get the sense he's kind of pro-China. And I don't know what he has suggested about India's future policy. I don't know. See, it's very important for someone like me not to really pay too much attention to what some so-and-so experts are saying, because that may cloud your judgment. So I don't know. I've not read about what he has said. I mean, I've not read. I know that he's kind of pro-China, like I said a couple of times already. But and I get the sense he's kind of critical of India in certain things at least. So I don't know what he has suggested. If you can tell me what it is, like give me a couple of points, and I could perhaps give you my feedback about that. But overall, without knowing what he has said, I can't really comment. Sujit says, my previous Insta got perma banned in 2021 because I was pro Dharma and pro Bharat account. Now, the kind who disses another faith also spoke about, not the kind who disses another faith, also spoke about adrenochrome. Bharat deserves its own special social media. Bharat deserves a lot of things, but it doesn't get what it deserves, right? Uh, Bharat should have its own social media. That's what I've been saying for years. We should have it. But for India's um, government, it's not important. And forget about the government. Why can't India's private sector create its own social media? Doesn't care. We don't care. India's private sector, the IT industry, just wants to make money from labor arbitrage, from cyber coolie work. They don't want to develop anything of any use. People like Nilekani, who don't want India to be a leader in AI. India should be a distributor of AI, not a leader in AI. That sort of thing, right? Very problematic. So, as long as you are on foreign platforms, you're going to have to play by the rules, and they're going to ban you whenever they feel like. That's an issue. So, yes, we should have our own social media, but we don't, unfortunately, sadly. Dheeraj Kamath says Singapore is too small to be sovereign, yet Israel isn't. Israel is much larger, first of all, than Singapore. Okay? And secondly, you still make a good point here. See, Israel is much larger than Singapore, sure. Much larger than Singapore, sure. But it's still tiny. And yet it is not just sovereign, it is super sovereign. Israel is special. You see, you've pointed out a very interesting contradiction here. Yes, you've done a great job of that. But Israel is special. Israel is not just sovereign, it is super sovereign. Because Israel has the complete unconditional support of the United States. When the most powerful nation in the world gives you its unconditional support at any given point in time, right? Then you are not just sovereign, you are super sovereign. So, yes, Israel is 100% sovereign. Not just sovereign, it controls, some say it controls the US. Well, there you have it, okay? Kakashi says, your views and opinions on MH370. Also, Aditya Kaul said he doubts that people like Matthew Van Dyke and David Hadley are just private mercenaries. Look, it's not important what some journalist says or thinks. It's not important. What do I think about Matthew Van Dyke and David Hadley? Obviously, they're not private mercenaries. They are an extension of the deep state. Obviously. Right? They don't act independently on their own. They're not independent private operators. They are agents of certain intelligence agencies. They may be double agents, they may be whatever, but they work for intelligence agencies. That's why the Americans have never even considered extraditing David Hadley to the US, to India, right? Now we have Matthew Van Dyke, which is interesting. He was, fomenting trouble in India's Far East. Okay, now, and Matthew Van Dyke clearly has deep US establishment connections. Okay, so there is that. My views and opinions on MH370, big mystery. And it's almost impossible for an aircraft to get lost today and never be found. So maybe there's a deeper mystery behind the mystery. Yeah, but I don't know what it could be. There are all kinds of claims on social media. There are some claims it was abducted by UFOs and whatnot. There are claims that the time travel and God knows what kind of claims. But I think there is a deeper mystery behind this. Maybe something similar to what happened to Dr. Bhabha. Perhaps something like that. But I can't say because we have no evidence. Okay, Nisarg Joshi says, there has been a narrative by the likes of Ray Dalio that the American empire is in its decline. How true is that? Well, the US empire does show some signs of decline, but it is still very powerful. But it is old and it is set in its ways, which is why it got a big beating in the recent war against Iran. The war hasn't ended yet, by the way. Right? So the US has only one way of fighting wars, which is brute force. They tried it against Iran and they got a horrible beating. So that shows that there is a decline in the way they think, right? And they right now have more military bases across the world than they've ever had in the past. So that's not a sign of decline, that's a sign of expansion. But there are challengers to the US, China and Russia and so on. So overall, an empire typically lasts on average 250, 300 years, between 250 to 300 years. The US is about 250 years old now, right now, right? Roughly. 1776, was it? Yeah, 1776. So it's about 250 years old. Yeah, I think this is the year of the 250th anniversary. But it wasn't an empire when it was founded. It began becoming an empire, let's say, in the early 20th century. So it's not that old as an empire. An empire typically lasts 250 years roughly, on average, 250 to 300 years. So I think there are signs of decline, but there are signs of not decline either, right? Of it not declining right now. There are signs of it actually consolidating its imperial position by uh, technological means and so on. So it's a mixed bag. I would say I would caution my viewers from believing that the US is declining. There are some signs of decline. There is societal decay. There is a decline of standards in the US, societal standards, moral standards, and so on. Living standards also. But from a hard power perspective, the US has never been this strong. So it's a mixed bag. Okay. Anabil Sarkar says Pak to get 40 J35 AMCA not even ready for production. The Chinese may give Pakistan 40 J35s. There's speculation about that. I'm not sure how true that is or not, but it's a possibility. Yes, an AMC is not ready for production. So first of all, we need to make the Tejas Mark II ready for production and get it rolled out. But we are unable to do that because we don't have jet engines. We have paid the Americans for jet engines; they're not delivering them on time, and so on. So we are facing these problems. So we have to somehow acquire a jet engine of our own, and then we will be able to do whatever we want. And obviously, in India, things are slow. So yeah, there are issues. There are issues. My point is, you know what? It's true. Our air force is lagging behind because we are not able to plug to deal with the shortfall in the number of squadrons that we need. It's not the air force's fault, by the way. They're extremely good professionals. The point is we don't have enough fighter jets right now. So what's the solution to that? It's going to take time for us to roll out the AMC and all. We can't buy third rate F-35s or whatever. So what do? We have to manufacture a huge number of drones and missiles, which do the exact same job that the Air Force does. That's the solution. Fabian Thomas says, to be honest, it was ages ago and no one knows. People chose a version where they had choice or it was a genuine call. I don't know. And my question came from a point of view to stop forced ones. I'm an atheist. Okay. We're talking about religious conversions, right? Look, in India, the fact is most religious conversions happen by force, okay? Whether it is Christianity, whether it is Islam or whatever. Our ancestors did not give up their religion just like that. Okay? They would have been forced to do that. Today, there are people who may be willingly, through non-forcible means, converting to other religions because of financial inducements or whatever. We know how it works. Okay. And yeah, forcible conversions are a crime against humanity, obviously. Today, it's not happening on a forcible basis. Today, it's happening on the basis of financial inducements. Right? So that's also, I would say, highly unethical and so on. But in India, everything goes, I suppose. So we all know people who practice non-Indian religions in India, right? And most of them like to believe that their ancestors voluntarily converted to the foreign religion. Unfortunately, sadly, the truth is much more tragic than that. We know what happened in Goa. What happened in Goa was nothing short of genocide and Holocaust level thing, right? Horrible. And we know what the Turks did to our ancestors. So it's not like it was all genuine, voluntary. It was typically done, like, and under terrible, terrible, tragic circumstances. Yeah, and yeah, forcible conversions should never happen, obviously. Yeah, and neither should conversions happen because of financial inducements or whatever is happening right now. Even that is terrible. Teen Talks says, "Do you think the admiration of the US for Rome is resulted in the US mimicking it, and while doing so also inherited their flaws? Can you highlight Rome's flaws? Rome was glorious. Rome was great, even until it wasn't. See, every empire of the past, you can examine it with the benefit of hindsight. You will have the rise of the empire when everything was going great and it had no flaws. Of course, empires have flaws. They are brutal. They are all that. But every culture, every society, every empire, every dynasty has flaws. So, what were the Roman Empire's flaws from a geopolitical perspective? Well, from a geopolitical perspective, while Rome was rising, there were no flaws. And eventually, it became too large. It gained too much territory. It was very hard to administer that without modern 21st century telecommunications technology. So, territory started breaking off and so on. Right? Eventually, you had good times, which gave rise to weak men. You had emperors like Elagabalus. Have you heard of Elagabalus? Elagabalus. Let me tell you. Who was Elagabalus? Elagabalus. Elagabalus. He reigned. He was the Roman emperor between 2018 to 2022. 4 years, 4 or so years. While still a teenager. That is the man, the boy. And his short reign was notorious for religious controversy and alleged sexual debauchery, a close relative of the Severan dynasty. And so, okay, you can read about this fascinating gentleman. I mean, so this is an example of Rome's flaws. Okay, good times give rise to weak men, and weak men are indulgent and they forget about ruling the empire, and that's how the empire weakens, and then so on and so forth, right? Um, so the US admires Rome. You can see it all over the place, from the architecture of the White House, which, well, you would say it's Greek in origin, but the Romans brought Greek architecture into the mainstream and so on. If you see American Express credit cards, you will see Roman centurions on there, and so on. So the US, it hero worships Rome, and it kind of emulates Rome. Yeah. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, "Is the graviton real? What happens inside a black hole?" Well, we don't know if a graviton is real or not. It's a hypothetical boson. Boson. It obeys Bose-Einstein statistics. It is the particle that carries, which is the, well, it's the uh, gravitational counterpart of the photon. The photon is the particle that mediates the electromagnetic force, and similarly, the graviton is the counterpart of the photon, which is the force carrier, as so to say, of the gravitational force. It's hypothetical. We have never seen it. We don't know if it's real. I mean, if it is real, it'll be essentially impossible for us to detect it because it'll be so incredibly tiny and small. So we don't know if it's real, but theoretically it should exist. I mean, if you look at the chart of the particles, the standard model, you'll find the graviton figuring there. Let's find out, shall we? Standard model particles. Standard model particles. Fundamental particles. Okay. So will they show the graviton here? Oh, they don't show the graviton here. In this chart, at least, you have the Higgs boson. You have gluons. So okay, I've seen these tables in which you have the graviton as well as a hypothetical particle. So you have the scalar bosons, gauge bosons, leptons, quarks. We don't have the graviton here. but you could insert it in there if you wanted to. Anyhow, so we don't know if it's real, okay, because we've never seen it. There's no experiment that we know of that can actually potentially detect it. What happens inside a black hole? Well, there are various versions of what happens inside the black hole. Uh, the Einstein equations paint a certain picture of what happens inside. You have spaghettification inside. You may have spaghettification outside of a black hole too, or at the boundary, depending on the size of the black hole. Let's say it's a supermassive black hole. You cross the event horizon, you will not even know about it. But the closer you reach to the center, the more you'll begin to realize something is up. Eventually, you get spaghettified. You get torn into shreds of spaghetti because of the tidal forces. And allegedly, there's a singularity at the heart of the black hole, which is actually a flaw, a defect in Einstein's field equations, which means the theory needs to be improved. So we don't quite know what happens inside. But allegedly, there's a singularity, a point of infinite density and infinite curvature at the heart of the black hole. Yeah. Okay. VSVS says, Namaste sir, is black pillar ke jungle mein main iklauta red pillar bacha hu. Jai Shri Ram. Jai Shri Ram, keep fighting the good fight. Don't give in ever to the black pill. There's the blue pill and the red pill in the matrix. It's been so long since I saw it. What does the red pill mean? These days, there are so many pills, right? There's the black pill, there's the red pill, there's the blue pill. There are all kinds of other pills too these days. I'm not sure which is which anymore. But red pill means facing reality, I think, realism, right? I belong to the realistic school of thought. So maybe, yeah, I'm also red pill then, I would suppose. So keep fighting the good fight, sir. Don't give in to the gloom and doom and negativity. Fast Snail says, US mulling global blockade, recipe for disaster. I mean, first of all, you can't blockade the entire world. You can blockade a strait of, a choke point like Hormuz or Malacca or Bab el Mandeb or Gibraltar or whatever, or Suez. But you can't blockade the entire world. But if you try it, it's disaster. It's going to be disaster for the world if you blockade multiple choke points or whatever. That could be considered to be a global blockade. So that's a global disaster. It will ruin the global economy for a long time. Yeah. US mulling global blockade. That's so evil if they are genuinely mulling that. I'm not aware of it, but that would be so evil. A really evil thing to do, right? Global blockade. Blockading and choking the global economy. That's terrible. I hope they don't do it. Rashikuddin says, US billions of dollars to Israel fund US lobby for more aid. Thoughts? US billions of dollars to Israel fund US lobby for more aid. Thoughts? See, it's very clear that Israel is a special nation for the US. The US offers Israel unconditional support. It's very clear that it's no longer some conspiracy theory, right? The US gives unconditional support to Israel. And why does this happen? Because a lot of the most powerful politicians in the US are of Jewish ancestry. They are Jewish Americans, and they unconditionally support Israel. And this is a bipartisan phenomenon. You have a large number of very powerful, very influential Jewish politicians in the Democratic Party and in the Republican Party. So no matter who comes to power, Israel is supported. And Israel gets whatever aid it needs, whether it is money, whether it is arms, ammunition, fuel, whatever Israel needs is given to it. So it's like Israel actually controls the US. It's almost like the US is the vassal state of Israel. It's almost like that. That's my thoughts. Yep. Fast Snail says, if US deploys hypersonic missiles, consequences. Well, it depends on where it deploys it. The US may have hypersonic missiles, but not as good as Russia. And where do they deploy? You mean in West Asia? Well, let them deploy hypersonic missiles. Iran also has hypersonic missiles. You're going to have hypersonics against hypersonics. The consequence is more firepower to the US, but the US still can't defeat Iran with that. Right? So more firepower will be brought in by the US if it's hypersonics, will cause more damage to Iran, but they won't be able to defeat Iran. And how many hypersonics does the US have? I don't think they have as many as the Iranians have. So that's also a question. So that's also a factor we have to look into. So overall, if the US brings in hypersonic missiles to the West Asia theater, it will give them more firepower. It will give them more ways of damaging Iran, but it won't give them the leverage that will be sufficient to make Iran capitulate. That won't be there. So Kaiser Shuze says, Kaiger Shuze. Okay, Kaiger Shuze. That's a different version. Verbal Kint. Okay. Why do most right-wing YouTubers show pro-US bias and anti-Iran? Is it ideology, US fetish, or missing India's strategic neutrality? Calling them as analysts, LOL. So listen, I don't know. I don't watch any right-wing, left-wing, whatever YouTubers. I don't watch anybody. So I don't know who says what, first of all. Okay. And if some of them, or you're saying most right-wing Indian YouTubers show pro-US bias and anti-Iran, that's a very interesting phenomenon, if that is the case. It either means that I'm completely stupid and I'm missing the true picture, or it means there's something else at play. Because I see, first of all, you know that I don't show a pro-US bias. I am not anti-Iran, and I'm not anti-US and pro-Iran either. My perspective is purely the Indian perspective. I am only pro-India. I am not anti-anybody. I'm anti our enemies. That's it. So I don't know why, if it is true that most right-wing YouTubers are pro-US and anti-Iran, I don't understand why it is so. That is perplexing. It is very strange. Right? I don't get it, if that is the case. I don't get it. And I don't watch them, so I really can't say. I don't have the time to watch them. And it's best not to watch others who are in the same field. Otherwise, it'll cloud up your thoughts. So I don't do it. I just keep my mind blank when it comes to these things. Only my ideas are in here. That's it. Okay, Ashutosh. Thank you, Ashutosh. There's no question, but thank you so much. Very kind of you. Ashutosh Malgaonkar. Thank you so much, sir. Beckenbauer says, please look into the 1921 Malabar Rebellion. While framed as an anti-British struggle, it involved a genocide of Hindus and temple destruction. Why do descendants of those terrorists receive freedom fighter pensions for a massacre? So I don't need to look into it. I'm aware of what happened. I haven't studied the details, specifics and all. But it was not an anti-British rebellion. It was a genocide of Hindus. The Mopla rebellion, which was the Mopla genocide of Hindus. And a lot of Hindus who survived were converted to Islam at the time. A lot of people who live in Kerala today who are Muslims, their ancestors, their parents and grandparents were converted in 1921. Right? So it was ethnic cleansing, it was genocide, it was forcible conversion. That's what it was. And temple destruction, like you say. And yet, the perpetrators of this, they received freedom fighter pensions. That's India for you. India is not a serious nation. India is kind of a joke, at least when it comes to certain things. Right? Sad. So I'm aware of this. It was a most brutal event. And Mr. Gandhi had, there was some Mr. Gandhi involvement in this. Right? I think it was Mr. Gandhi who, I'm not sure if it is true or not, but I think it's possible Mr. Gandhi portrayed this as a anti-British freedom thing or something. Not sure, but yeah. So yeah, it makes no sense that those people received freedom fighter pensions for what was actually a genocide, a massacre. It was not one massacre, it was multiple massacres. Okay, Kakashi says no Nordic versus Singapore versus Kerala versus Tamil versus Gujarat model. The Nordic model is capitalism with very strong welfare state characteristics. Singapore is also laissez-faire capitalism with very strong state control of people's behavior and all that, and it's great for the people. But not sure how happy people are, because maybe they aren't that free. That's what I hear from some people. I'm not sure. Overall, Singapore seems to be a fantastic place overall. So I'm not sure if what the criticism one hears is it fair or unfair. I think Singapore itself is a great Asian model. I think Singapore has done a fantastic job, and I think the Nordic nations, before they brought in all the illegal immigration, they also did a fantastic job. Kerala model I'm not familiar with, so I can't say. Tamil Nadu model I'm not aware of it. I don't say. Gujarat model everyone is aware of it. It's okay. So from an Indian perspective, within an Indian context, I think the Gujarat model was great. What Mr. Modi did as Chief Minister of Gujarat over how many years? 15 years was it? It was great. It completely transformed the state, right? So it was a great way of going from 0 to 1. Gujarat was at 0. Mr. Modi brought it to 1, maybe from 1 to 10 also. But the question is, how do you get to 100? So what brought you from 0 to 1 won't take you from 1 to 10. And what takes you from 1 to 10 will not take you from 10 to 100. So you need different models then, right? Let's say the Nordic model and Singapore model are your 100. And let's say you're at 10. So how do you get there? The same model won't work for you. You'll have to do something different. So that's also something we have to understand as Indians. Once you reach a certain stage, you have to take a different approach sometimes. All right. So I would say, which is the best? Is if your question is that, I would say Singapore and the Nordic model are the best. Yeah. Out of those two, which is better, I'm not sure, but these two are the best models. Deepen Vadva says Gemini is giving our info to the Pentagon. Which search engine, mailing system, etc. do you recommend? DuckDuckGo, Proton Mail, or do you simply turn off web and app activity and location activity in your Google account? So, look, Proton Mail is not necessarily going to be completely private. Nah. DuckDuckGo, I don't know. The fact is, there is no privacy online today. If you use the internet, your information is out there. If you use the internet, you simply don't have privacy. If you use a phone, you don't have privacy. It's just a fact of life today. There is no privacy. There are no secrets. The US government knows everything about you. All you can do is be as careful as possible. Yeah. You can switch off location activity. You can switch off everything in your Google account and still they will know everything. Okay. Just because you switched off certain things doesn't mean that they will not have all your information. They'll have everything. This is the 21st century. This is the context. This is the world we live in. There is no privacy. There's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. So there is no solution. There's no answer. There's no solution to this. You can take all the precautions. To really have privacy, you need to somehow, first of all, find a way to delete all your electronic footprint from the internet. And secondly, you need to air gap yourself in a room with a Faraday cage and not have any internet activity, not have a cell phone. That's the only way you'll have privacy. But today, you can't live that life, right? So, Sujal Rajput says, some intellectuals are arguing that the 150 to 200 kilometer wide 6-degree channel is too wide to be a maritime choke point like the 33 to 50 kilometer wide Strait of Hormuz. Does it make sense, or is it just oversimplification? The 6-degree channel is in the Andamans, is it? I think I had referred to this in one of my Indian interest episodes, one of the first Indian interest episodes, the 6-degree channel. Let's find out where it is. 6-degree channel. It's either Lakshadweep or Andamans. Andaman Nicobar Island. Okay, yeah. There's another one in the Lakshadweep Islands. It's called something else. So 6 degree channel. It's Andamans. Yes. Um, and it is here from Great Nicobar. 6 degree channel. Okay, let's see what Wikipedia has to say about this. Okay. Wikipedia doesn't have a page. Duncan Passage, what is that? So it's between, okay, it's between the Nicobar Islands and Indonesia. That's what it is. Now, is this a choke point? Is it too wide to be a choke point? I think it's too wide to be a choke point. Yeah. I think it's too wide to be a choke point. There has to be an undeniable geographic narrow point for something to be classified as a choke point. If you go to the map, okay, let's open the map. Okay, the 6 degree channel that we talk about. So it's the gap between India and Indonesia, right? It's about 160 or so kilometers, right? Roughly let's say 160 kilometers. That's a big, it's a very wide part of the world. See, the Malacca Strait, that's a real choke point because see the average distance for less than 50 kilometers, right? Less than 50 kilometers, 45 and so on. And here you have this. So the Strait of Malacca is a genuine choke point. Hormuz, you can see here how wide is Hormuz. It's also less than 50 kilometers. How wide is Bab al Mandeb? So Bab al Mandeb is let's say 10 kilometers. That's a real choke point. Suez. Okay, Suez is even narrower. It must be 100 meters or something. The Suez Canal, right? How wide is this? Okay, that's about 300 or so meters. 320. How wide is Gibraltar? How wide is Gibraltar? Let's see. Roughly, okay, 10 to 15 kilometers. Yeah, that's pretty narrow. These are choke points. And there's hard landmass on both sides, so you can't evade that. And then you obviously also have the Dardanelles and the Bosphorus Straits. Where is Çanakkale? Çanakkale. There we have it. So this must be terribly. So this is less than 2 kilometers. And then you have the Strait of Bosphorus, Istanbul, Constantinople. Okay. What's the distance here? Must be, yeah, less than a kilometer. These are choke points. When you have something that is 160 kilometers wide, you can't call that a choke point. So I would agree with those intellectuals. You can't call that a choke point. It's not a choke point. Okay. Fast Snail says UAE moving out of OPEC, a strategic move, more freedom, more freedom. See, OPEC is dominated by the large nations like Saudi Arabia, major oil producers. But UAE itself is a major oil producer. ADNOC is a major oil producer, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company or Corporation. And for the longest time, OPEC has been, UAE has been a member of OPEC for decades, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And OPEC decides how much oil each nation can export or manufacture and extract and export. And there are limitations, there are limits that every nation must abide by, which causes loss of revenue. So now that you have the situation where the Strait of Hormuz is blockaded, the UAE has made the strategic move. They have moved out of OPEC, and in a few weeks or a few months or whenever the strait reopens, they'll be ready to export as much as they want. It's a strategic move. More freedom, absolutely right. More freedom, right? They are moving out of the shadow of Saudi Arabia and other major OPEC nations. They're gonna be more independent and they'll have more freedom now. Absolutely. So it's a strategic move. It's a good strategic move if you are the UAE. Deepen Wadhwa says, Claude now helps find cybersecurity vulnerabilities as well, but would you trust it? It rejected the Pentagon's offer to share everything, but it's is still unethical. You could say all AI companies are unethical. So Claude is not a company, it's a product. The company is Anthropic. And if you see this, I'll tell you, give me a second. So look at this, okay? Let me share this. I spoke about this at the very beginning. And here we have this. This account, this Twitter account is the official account for the Office of the Undersecretary of War for Research and Engineering, Government of the US. And this tweet came out today. Today, the department, was it today? It was yesterday. Okay. Today, the Department of War entered into agreements with 7 of the world's leading AI leading frontier AI model and infrastructure companies to deploy frontier capabilities on the department's classified networks. SpaceX, OpenAI, Google, Nvidia, Reflection, Microsoft, and AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. This is just the latest initiative in our mandate to create an AI first war department. Okay? And Anthropic is left out of this. Anthropic was blamed for the attack on that Iranian school. Apparently, Claude, the system, was autonomously deciding targets and without a human in the loop kind of approach, just launching attacks. So you can't blame the AI for what happened. You have to blame the operators for what happened. That they did not review the decision that was taken with the system. So Anthropic rejected the Pentagon's demands, Trump's demands to share everything. That's why it's been kept out. Is it unethical? Well, it's an AI system. It's an AI company. Unethical or not, that's for you to decide. And I'm not sure whether I suppose Claude could find cybersecurity vulnerabilities. I hear Mythos is good at that. Really good. That's what I hear. We've had someone on the show today who uses Mythos, who has access to Mythos, and says it's not as great as it advertised, but I don't know. So, would I trust it? You can't trust AI unless you own the AI, unless you've developed the AI. Then you can trust it, but others can't, I suppose. So it will be stupid for anyone to trust AI. You have to be very careful with it. And it's a product, it's a service. And at the end of the day, it's owned by a private company that belongs to a different nation. So you can't really trust it. Jazz 1993 Forever says, I'm 32, working in BPO, business process outsourcing, not saving any money. I'm staying on rent. What's my advice? My advice would be, well, you have to find a way to save. You have to find a way to save money. See, there are 2 ways you want save. One way is maybe you spend everything you earn, even though you can afford to save some money. In that case, if there is a situation, then stop wasting money on things that don't matter. Save money. Second situation is you simply don't earn enough to save. That's also a situation. In that case, you have to find a better job. Then finding a better job depends on various factors like your degree and your experience and your skills and so on. So once again, I don't know your circumstances. I don't know you personally. I don't know your background. I would say find a way. Find a better job. Find a job that makes you more money and then save the money. Save for the next decade. And upskill yourself. Learn new skills so that you get a better job that pays you much more. So that you can, if you want to move out of BPO and move into something else, you can afford to do that. So you have to work on yourself. You have to work on upskilling yourself, gaining new skills, gaining new knowledge. You have to gain more experience. And you have to fight. You have to struggle. Life is a struggle at times. It is. But if you do it the right way, if you fight the good fight, then life also rewards you with things you like, with things that are meaningful to you. So my advice is, don't feel disheartened, don't get depressed, don't be upset. Work, work on it, work on yourself, fight the good fight, and you know move on to the next level. That's what I would say. All right, Jazz 40 forever. All the best, sir. All the best, sir or ma'am. I'm not sure if you. I can't see your face very well here. I think you are a gentleman. It doesn't matter. All the best to you. All the best. Do well. Okay, Krunal says, you often say Persians integrated in Mughal India, but Persian sources from 16th and 17th centuries like Muhammad Qasim. Muhammad Qasim, I've heard the name. Sounds Arabic. Okay, Persian sources from 17th and whatever centuries show many Irani elites saw themselves as superior, fairer, from distinct from Hindus, even converts. I have said that Persians worked as officials in the Mughal court, in the courts and administrations of the Mughal rulers. I have not said Persians integrated into Indian society. When did I ever say that? When did I say that? In my last live stream, I said that Persians have this attitude of superiority over Indians. Maybe you heard something out of context, or maybe you saw some clipping somewhere. That happens, I understand. Here's the facts. Persians worked as officials in the Mughal court and the Mughal administration. They were members of the elite. They saw themselves as distinct from the Turks, who were the Mughals, and they saw themselves as distinct from the Indians, the Hindus. And the Persians had this attitude of superiority because they themselves were ruled by the Turks for 1,000 or so years, and they had developed this attitude that fair skin is superior. And the Turks had brought in lots of people from the Caucasus region and other regions who then integrated into Persian society. So the Persian genetics changed. The people of the Caucasus integrated, and Azerbaijan integrated into Persian society. So overall, the level of fairness of skin increased, and the Persians started seeing themselves as of being, quasi white or whatever. So that is the case. Okay, I have not said Persians integrated into the Indian society. I've never said that. Please pay attention. There are nuances that you have to pay attention to. I've not said that. All right. Okay. Vigpal Singh says, why OICs are anti-India like Jayant Bandari? Look, there are many OICs who are also pro-India. Jayant Bandari is a piece of... Listen, okay, let's not go there. Let us have a dignified debate over here. Let us not use unparliamentary language. My point is, Jayant Bandari is... he doesn't represent all OICs. OIC means... overseas Indian citizens, right? Something like that. There are OICs who are also pro-India. Not all are anti-India. So let's not make it make Jayant Bandari the representative of all OICs. That's not the case. Rohit says, what drove well-trained soldiers in certain instances to loot, plunder, and do that horrific thing that you're referring to? Like during the Second World War. Why is it less documented than the Red Army's crimes? What? See, you will never hear of Indian soldiers doing that, by the way. Indian soldiers were all over the various theaters in the Second World War. Indian soldiers prevented women from being, treated like this. There are so many instances, recorded instances of Indian soldiers saving women from such circumstances and situations, whether it is in Eastern Asia or whether it is in Europe or wherever. They saved the dignity of many women, Indian soldiers. Indian soldiers never were driven to do such things, whether it is loot, plunder, or what you're mentioning. Never. So then what drives well-trained soldiers in some circumstances to do such things? It's not the training. The training is that of discipline. but there is something deeper behind training, which is your culture. I would say it would be the culture. I would imagine. I've not been a soldier, so I can't say. But it would be your culture that drives you to do certain things that go against your training. That's what I would imagine. Okay. Gamer Praveen says DRDO chief said Agni 6 is waiting for the government is ready. Well, what is the government waiting for? Unleash the Kraken. Good, good. I'm glad this new missile is ready. Let's go for Agni 7 next. I mean, it's just about increasing the range, right? Come on, let's make it fast. Make it happen fast. Let's have Agni 7 in the next 6 months. It's possible. Of course, it's possible. So the government of India will now, they will see the file, they will examine the file. You will need some green ink on it, some red ink on it, some blue ink on it. It'll go through the process. Eventually, it'll reach a certain desk. So it's going to be a bureaucratic process. But anyway, I'm glad this has happened. Good job, DRDO. Let's unleash the Kraken. Akash Chaurasia says, is the purpose of life something intrinsically embedded within the fabric of the existence? Or is it a construct of human consciousness as emergent narrative we impose upon an otherwise indifferent universe? I don't know about the mysteries of the universe. I seek to understand them through mathematical equations, but there are deeper things to the universe, I'm sure, that I am not aware of. Construct of human consciousness, we don't even know what human consciousness is. The question is about the purpose of life. My answer is, it's up to you what the purpose of your life is. We can all choose our own purpose, right? And what I imagine is my purpose may be very different from what you imagine is your purpose, which means, so what is my purpose? What do I think is a good life? First of all, let's answer the question. I think your life is good. I will say that I have lived a good life if by the time I reach the end, I will have contributed more to society than I've taken from society. That's how I see it. Many of us, we take from society. We take, we give nothing. Or we give very little back. I think if you succeed in giving more to society than you take from it, then you've lived a good life, and that's enough to have had a meaningful and enjoyable and good life. That's how I see it. But that itself is a good definition from my perspective of a good purpose of life. So some of you may disagree. Some of you may say something else should be the purpose of life. So that's your choice, right? So you all have the right to choose your own purpose. There is no one universal definition of the purpose of life. Yeah, so I don't know if it's embedded within the fabric of existence or construct of human consciousness or emergent narratives and all. I don't know. That's too complicated language for me. It hurts my brain. I'm a very simple person. So it's up to you. You choose your purpose and you pursue it. That's all it is. Okay. Whatever makes sense to you can be your purpose, can be the purpose of your life. Godliness says, observation. Foreign policy of any state is a reflection of its internal political reality. You have made a good observation here. Therefore, before analyzing foreign policy, it may be better to first examine a nation's internal politics. Is that a commentary about what I say, that I don't look at Indian politics? Maybe I should say I don't comment about Indian politics. Of course, I know what's happening in India. I choose not to comment about it. You have made me make a good distinction here. Well, I thank you for that. Look, you're right. A nation's foreign policy is always going to be a function of what's happening inside the nation. Foreign policy will be different for dictatorships. It'll be different for presidential democracies. It'll be different for prime ministerial democracies and so on and so forth. It'll be different for an empire or a kingdom, right? So foreign policy is a function of the internal configuration within the nation. It's a function of a lot of things, which are all internal to the nation. You're absolutely correct. So yeah, if you want to understand American foreign policy, you have to understand what's happening inside the US, what's America's domestic political situation like. If you understand Russia, China, and so on, you do that. And so also for India. I agree. And that is a very correct observation. VSVS says, one phone for life, iPhone 17 Pro or S26 Ultra. I have not used the S26 Ultra. I have not used the iPhone 7 Pro. So I have no idea which one for life. I have this for the past, I don't know, 3 years. It's the iPhone 15 Pro. That works for me. I don't need a 7. It's still new. Still new. It's been at least, I don't know, 2-3 years. It's still new. So I think for me, it's iPhone 15 Pro for life. Works for me. All right. That was it. That brought me to the end of the questions. All right, we're done for today. I think we're done for today. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for the questions, and I shall now call it a night or a day or a morning for wherever you are. All right, so thank you so much for the question. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for for your viewership, your support. Keep learning, keep asking questions, keep raising your standards, and I will see you tomorrow. And we'll have more Q&A tomorrow. All right, until then, take care. I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.